button that says submit your question. We have 15 candidates lined up tonight for things all across the county to the state representatives. So please be sure to ask the question online. Each candidate will get 5 minutes, and there will be 5 minutes for questions. They don't have to use all of it. First, we have Karl, State Representative, District 20.
It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having us. I will be brief. My name is Karl, and I'm the Democratic nominee for the State Representative House District 29. District 29 runs... District 29 runs, it's all of DeLand, most of DeLand. It goes down into Deltona, Osteen, swings around up into Spruce Creek, Lyon. So it's mostly the west part of the county. I live in DeLand. I'm a native of Volusia County. I go back my family goes back 4 generations of Volusia County. My grandmother was Mary Karl. She had a vocational school, Mary Karl Vocational School, during the Second World War that became Daytona State College. That's a whole long story in itself. My dad was in the legislature from Volusia County, the state senate, and on the state Supreme Court, ran for governor in 1963. So I grew up in politics. I'm a lawyer, been a lawyer for 40 years, and the last 15 years or 16 years, I was with the county of Volusia. So I had to, I was a department director. I oversaw aviation and economic resources. I ran the Daytona Beach Airport and the county's economic development activities. So I was very involved in the community, but as a department director, you're not allowed to get involved politically too much. So I've been sort of under the radar screen. I believe it is our time to take this on. I'm so upset about what's going on in Tallahassee. It's a lot of just cruel, ugly things going on. I do not have a primary opponent. I'm going to be running for the general election, so we're just building up momentum. So I will not be on the ballot in August. My 2 Republican opponents are running, and they will be on the ballot. And they both have sent their Disney money back to try to suck up to the governor, which makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm sorry. There's a lot we can talk about. I want to be there. I want to learn more about what your community really needs, how I can be effective in Tallahassee to help the community and be supportive. Because I believe in the decency of humanity, and I'm not going to go up there and fight anger with anger. I'm going to try to do it with diplomacy, my legal skills, my advocacy skills. I'm a Harvard-trained negotiator, and I know how to get things done. We did $93 million worth of projects during the decade I ran the Daytona Beach International Airport. $93 million in capital projects. Most of that was grant funded. And then we also the airport went from an economic impact of $1.2 billion to $2.1 billion at airport under our watch. $2.1 billion economic impact. And we did all kinds of economic development projects. I was one of the point people on board the team that brought Amazon distribution warehouse here. So I know you guys got a lot of folks to listen hear from, but please get involved. We need active support. We need your support. Get out there, get involved, get people registered to vote, and let's make this happen. So thank you very much.
Stick around for 1 second. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, I do.
Okay.
So, how would you make a difference in Tallahassee? How can you make a difference as one person in the legislature?
Well, I have a lot of gray hair, and being a lawyer, I feel like I can bring a voice of reason. That's our motto. Kimberly Klein has our literature over there. She's our campaign manager. You all know Kim Klein. She should be running, not me. But I think being a rational voice, that people get in an echo chamber. If you have one party that's in control like now, everybody they all agree, and there's nobody to disagree and to say, wait a minute, that may not be a good idea. That may not really help. We thought about changing Disney's Reed Creek. We had thought through that. Somebody said, wait a minute, let's stop. That's going to have a negative impact on the taxpayer. Maybe we would have been able to slow that process down a little bit. So it's just influencing. You're not going to go up there and take charge as a Democrat, but we're going to certainly use all of our experience to try to be a voice of reason.
Any other questions? Because this mic doesn't move, so you have to come over here. Or you can go online to DeLandPride.org, where there's a large button, and you can ask a question there too.
Good afternoon. My question to you, would you, if elected, would go back and readdress the issue of property insurance that we're going through right now?
Yes.
As a homeowner, I just got notified the other day that my property insurance is canceled after 30 years. How do we go back and readdress that issue with property insurance?
Good question.
As
somebody who no longer has homeowners insurance either, I'm with you.
And I tell you, it is a travesty and it's a disaster. And what made me so angry, one of the reasons I decided to run, is that those guys went up there and they never addressed this problem. This problem is not something that's new. This has been brewing for 4 or 5 years at least, and maybe going back decades, but it's really since these hurricanes. But they would not address it, and they had to have all this culture war stuff. They wouldn't get down to business and actually try to solve this problem. And they still haven't solved the problem, even though they did a special session at $100,000 a day to the taxpayers. They did a special session, just put a Band-Aid on it. It's the regulatory problem. They're not regulating the insurance industry. That's the problem. They're let them do what they want to do. There are solutions to this. We have citizens insurance, other state-funded reinsurance. It's a complicated problem, but I am definitely dialed into that. I'm going to do what I can to see if we can't get that on the front burner for the next session and solve it for the homeowners.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we got the lady in blue, Mrs. Barb Girtman. County Council. District.
Thank you, and thank you for having me tonight. Thanks for this opportunity. It's been my pleasure for the last 4 years to serve you as District 1 representative and current vice chair for Volusia County. The reason I'm running again is because we have sown seeds and created opportunities over these last 4 years that we need to pull through. There's great opportunities that we've worked together, whether it was downtown businesses that we work with for inclusion and diversity, and we work with the Pride Group to do that. We also work with the Pride Group to do a business directory. It matters, relationships matter, experience matters. And I've worked for the last 10 years creating relationships throughout West Volusia and Volusia as a whole to identify where the needs are within our community and connect with the people in ways that matter. So it's really a time to stay connected with the people who have the experience, who have developed those relationships, and we are now in a position to get a lot of this work done. A lot of resources are ready to come into the local, state, and federal, and it's that time. So one of the critical areas that I ran on was the concern about infrastructure. And starting this month, I chaired the TPO, which is the River to Sea planning organization that impacts roads and infrastructure. And we have a number of West Volusia projects on the landscape. It matters that we have people who have created the relationships, again, with the state, with the local FDOT transportation organizations to be able to make a difference. So when I'm reelected, I can get those relationships to help us be top of mind for those who are making the decisions. It's a critical time. Economic development, I know there are challenges with local business. It matters that we invest in you. It matters that we listen to you and find ways of supporting small business especially. So I know that we've got to make greater efforts to do that. Another area that's top of mind, of course, is our natural resources and identifying ways of not if we grow, but how we grow. And how we listen to the people, how we listen to the concerns. When I ran 4 years ago, I'm not a farmer, but I had the farms of Northwest on my mind because I know I've been coming here since the late 60s, early 70s. I remembered what the rural areas used to look like and what the farms were like. And I know now we've got 80-year-old property owners that are trying to figure out what to do with their properties. How do they survive? How do they sell their property and make a living without being, held to a different standard? So what I talked to our county staff about was making a way to do an agricultural easement, which allows them to sell their property, still have the property farmed, but get paid while doing that. It matters. It matters that I've asked staff to think forward, to get out of the box of how they've been doing business and do business for how we need to go forward, not for where we've been. So it really matters that we have someone who is forward thinking, who's a visionary, who works to create relationships, to connect, communicate, and collaborate to get the work done. And that's me. So I feel whoever's coming behind me, what their focus is going to be, certainly is not likely to be the same as the things that I've worked to invest in these last 4 years on the county council, or prior to that, investing in our community in ways that matter. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I certainly welcome any questions.
Any questions? No questions? All right, I have questions.
One of the things about representing a large swath of area, right, is that there's a lot of different kinds of constituents who have a lot of different and diverse types of views. But you need to represent everybody. So how do you balance that when people disagree and have different views on an issue?
That's a really good question, and I continue to say we are not a one-size-fits-all community, especially in District 1. And I call each one of these areas my gems, right? So when I came on, I said we need to develop ecotourism in some of our areas and really focus on the specifics for that area. So a Lake Helen can be equestrian, right? And part of DeBerry may be, the springs and the trails. Same for DeLand Springs is the agriculture. So each area has its own niche. And when an issue comes up, those are the things I consider. That's why my concern about anything anti without hearing from the people, without hearing from the people who are impacted, I don't think it's fair. I think I have to fairly evaluate what that property owner in the Northwest farm agriculture area that's no longer able to do what they've done. The fern's not selling. There's no more citrus. What are those opportunities? Same thing when I look at Orange City, what are their concerns? What's the concerns for the spring there and the commercial? Because I just met with, the manager and, the mayor there, and their concern is their commercial corridor still being on septic. So again, DeLand Springs, same thing. Bringing sewer to DeLand Springs to be able to help the small business there. So each area really has its own concerns. There's some that are similar, but they're not same. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all question, and especially for a district as large as District 1 and for the uniqueness of it.
Nice.
right, thank you very much. Do we have more questions? And also, if you're watching or in here, you can go to DeLandPride.org and submit a question there.
Yes, thank you. Has anybody even thought of or proposed maybe cannabis as a solution to some of the property issues that they're having? I know that's a loaded question.
Actually, it isn't loaded. There's been many who have thought about cannabis. Cookies is in the area. That came more recently, and I think they're hiring 200 to 300 jobs. But I think there's more to it than just go grow weed. Cannabis. What it takes to be able to harvest it, is it you're trying to turn it into hemp, or so it's more than, can we just grow it? So, but it certainly is a consideration. And as I mentioned, there is an option to still be able to farm land, have the current property owner sell the property, and still have value. So again, it's one of the out-of-the-box ways that I ask staff to come up with options. We've done the same thing in Spring Hill with small business there. We create a PUD for some of our smaller districts, small business districts that needed to renovate buildings, but they were out of compliance. And now we've got a policy where they can do that and do it within policy, and we help work them through it. So again, I really think this is the time to consider where we're going, not only where we've been, and look at things through fresh eyes, and that's what I considered doing these last 4 years. So I do have some handouts for anybody that wants information. I'm at barbgirtman.com. I've got envelopes for anybody who wants to put $5 or $10 in it. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, we also have envelopes if you want to donate to DeLand Pride, which you can do by going to DeLandPride.org. Thank you very much, Barb. Okay, up next we got County Council at Large. We have Sherrise Boyd here. Yeah, Jake?
Yeah.
Come on up. Yay! This is a fairly packed race, and it's kind of an important one. County Council at Large is responsible for representing the entirety of Volusia County.
First of all, let's hear it for the best salesman in the world right here. DeLandPride.org.
Or com, we read direct.
We read direct. So my name is Jake Johansson. I'm running for Volusia County Council at Large. That's the entire county. So can you vote for Volusia County Council at Large? If you're registered to vote in any form, you can vote for any county or any at-large candidate. I am one of 4. I'm sure you'll see the other 2 of 3 tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent 35 and a half years in the United States Navy defending the freedoms of you and everybody here in the nation. It was an honor to serve, and I did some pretty amazing, exciting things. Things that I would not have had the opportunity to do had I not been in the military. I grew up in a rural area, a little bit smaller than DeLand. I graduated high school 75th in my class. Pretty good, right? Not out of 90. But I had a great time, had some phenomenal opportunities, fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, worked in the White House with the Vice President carrying the nuclear football, worked in the Pentagon, commanded a squadron, and commanded a naval base up in Norfolk, Virginia. I was a public servant from 17 years old till 52. I retired and came down to Port Orange, where I was a city manager for 5.5 years. Again, public service. Keeping the budget low, or keeping keeping the budget smart, keeping the taxes low, the fourth lowest in the county, taking care of responsible development. I know people are concerned about overgrowth. In Port Orange, we either maintained by the Land Development Code the zoning that was in place for the property that was being developed, or decrease the density and increase the conservation land in every development we did in Port Orange when I was there. That isn't to say that was because of me. We had a great council working together, and you know what we did, folks? We worked with the developers. I'm not walking around kicking developers in the shin telling me I need more money, you are awful, you're dirty, you're rotten. Say, come to the table, let's talk. I think most developers, especially the local ones, want to do what's right in the neighborhoods they live in, and they work hard to do that. We're also concerned about the environment. We in Port Orange have the largest amount of purple pipes. What's a purple pipe? A reclaimed lake or a reclaimed water pipe. So we bring the dirty water into the water treatment plant, we treat it, and then we send it out treated to a lake where then it gets pumped back into our irrigation system. And the city of Port Orange does not pump any effluent from the water treatment plant into the Halifax River, which can't be said for all cities. So that, and we always funded public safety. Our firefighters are 3 to an apparatus. In the county right now, Barb, I think we're 2 and working on 3, and that's a good thing. We need 3 people per apparatus. So I'd like to take care of that when I'm at the county council too. Folks, what can I give you on county council? I'm not going to promise you anything that I can't deliver. Any politician in office right now will tell you that there are so many variables tied to taxes that I can't pledge to you no new taxes. George Bush tried that, didn't work out too well for him. But what I will do is tell you that I will use my military budgeting wisdom, the stuff I learned at the city of Port Orange. I will bring that to the county and make sure I get those taxes with the help of the other elected officials down to a level as low as we can. Rollback is not a problem for me if we can get there. Hard to do sometimes with 7.8% inflation, when the citizens vote for a $15 minimum wage and the county needs to pay for those. When we vote for ECHO, which is a tax, I can't tell you I'm not going to tax you for ECHO if you voted for it. So those are the variables that I'm talking about. But I will try to bring that, public safety, environmental stewardship, fiscal conservative, and bring all that to the county. What I want to do, and you heard a little bit about the relationships that Barb talked about, I want to start cooperating, collaborating, using common sense and communicating to the elected officials, state officials, federal officials, most importantly, the citizens. And what's communication? Providing information and listening to you all. That is what I bring to county council. And I hope you all will consider electing me, Jake Johansson, August 23rd. It's a nonpartisan race. If you're a registered Republican, registered Democrat, or a non-politically affiliated person, you can vote for the at-large candidate and any Volusia County candidate this election. So think about it, folks. Thank you very much for your time. What a great place. Thank you very much. You know where you can ask questions, here or at DeLandPride.org or com. It'll redirect. Press that big button. Does anybody have questions?
Yes,
Very good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Our rights are being eroded away at the state level, and I know this is not a partisan race, but our county elected officials have the opportunity to influence what happens at the state level more than we do as individuals. I know that you lean Republican, and that a lot of the mandates or the erosion of our rights are coming from the state level, from the Republican Party. What will you do? Will you offer that assistance whenever our rights are being eroded? That you will use your power as a county representative to fight back for the rest of us? Because that is a big issue. Every single day we're hearing where there's a hot button issue that's coming down from the state where rights are being eroded away. From the school board level, where they're taking our local rule away on a constant basis. And we're going to need whoever is in our local offices to fight for us.
Good question. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you, I do not work for a party. I was not convinced to run by a party or a person. I'm not aligned with any one person. I'm not going to do what one person says. I'm going to do what the citizens say. Those are the people I work for. I work for you. And one of the things that I did in Port Orange that I want to do some more of is work with the people in Tallahassee and not erode what's called home rule, our rights locally. Which government's the most responsive government? The government closest to the people. So I want to preserve that right at every cost. I happen to know Senator Wright, Tom Lee, certain people up on the staff of Governor DeSantis. I actually was on his Academy Selection Committee when he was a congressman, so I kind of know him. I don't think he'd invite me into his office, but what I will do is lobby every chance I get for home rule, so our rights at the local level do not get eroded.
I guess the question is that a lot in this audience would be interested in. Say at the state level they push to ban gay marriage in the state of Florida. Will you fight for your constituents and be the bold person leader for us to fight for our rights here? Because after all, we are electing you to represent us, and you will have more power than we will have if that comes down, along with several other things that could come down the pipe.
Sure, and I'll gladly share with our state officials the citizens' thoughts. You obviously have a thought on which way that should go, and there might be a group of people elsewhere who have the alternate thought. And so one thing you'll get from me is in all my research, I will talk to everybody, every stakeholder that I can find, the citizens, the nonprofits, the X, the Y, the Z, and in this case go to the state. But I have no problem. The one thing you'll get from me, folks, is I respect everybody. Everybody. I will not call you a dirty name because you're wearing a blue shirt, because you came from somewhere, or you'll have some race or gender that is different than mine. I was in the Navy for 35 years, traveled around the world. I got along with everybody. I very much am interested in cultures and thoughts that are not of my own. It's very interesting to me, so I will sit down and talk to everybody and share those thoughts with the folks up in the state. Can I influence it? I don't know, but it's worth a try, and I won't go, no, that's too hard. The one thing you won't get, the other thing you won't get from me is I'll never say that's too hard. I'll fight any fight. Leadership is hard. I've been saying that my whole life. My small business that I run right now is a leadership consulting firm, not a comedian. That's one of the things I always tell people, yeah, but the easy way is this. Well, leadership's hard. So, yes, I will carry your message and do what I have to do to make your message known.
But do you believe that?
So, I don't work for me. I work for you. I respect everybody, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity. Thank you. And we'll fight the fight for the people that I represent. So,
But
yeah,
if you
I'll up there.
if you go by majority rules, then the marginalized community might be shouted down, and that's
So
that's
that
kind
doesn't
of
mean I can't go up there and share your fight with the state, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a state. However, again, I'm not opposed to harm. So you'd be amazed, with a little bit of respect, with a group like that up there, you might make a little more headway than you think. And so far, I'm respected. So if I bring something up to them that's well researched, and I got my notes about me, I can influence a lot of people. So I'd be willing to give it a shot. All right. And no, I'm not opposed, by the way, to same-sex marriage.
Well, that's what you need to do.
And I just did.
Thank you.
That's personally just me.
All right, need to hear that.
I think we ran out of time for questions.
What's that
I
button?
know did we have any other questions for the audience?
I'll gladly ask them or answer them offline.
Okay, and also, if you want to ask the question online, you could go to DeLandPride.org.
Thank you very much.
Which, by the way, one thing I did forget to mention, and now we'll mention incessantly, is that we have a candidate questionnaire that our candidates did answer several questions that we asked them specifically about LGBTQ issues and how representation. And so you can see all of those questions underneath the button that says, press this button to ask a question at DeLandPride.org. So next up is Sherrise Boyd here? There we go. I thought I saw you hiding behind. All right. Another candidate for the packed race of county council at large. And if you have a question for her, you can finish that sentence.
Hello everyone, thank you. I am Sherrise Boyd. I'm running for Volusia County Council at large. These are not notes, these are actually my flyers that I hand out. I'm a little different than the others. I'm sure if you haven't, I'll tell you a little about my background. I worked for the Volusia County government for about 4 years as senior leadership in EMS, public protection. And before that, I worked at Prince William County Fire and Rescue, public protection again. And before that, I was with the U.S. Court of Appeals in Atlanta, Georgia for a stint. I finished a term there. My background, emergency disaster management, business, finance, and public relations pretty much. I'm running right now for county council because when I go to county council meetings, I'm usually, honestly, just the only one in the audience with melanin. That's the truth. I don't see any people in there, and then when I go back in my community, I hear them complaining about stuff. Go to the council meetings, go to the city council meetings. Another thing about me, I'm very active. This is Sherrise, this is not a politician, this is what I do. When I ran for mayor in 2020 of Daytona Beach, I didn't lose. I actually won better than winning the race. I won other things because I got inside knowledge. I got the ability to see what people were seeing from their perspective. And the reason they were seeing it because they didn't understand. People do not relate to what they cannot understand, and they cannot understand what they don't relate to. It's not their fault unless they choose to be ignorant, right? So I would go to neighborhoods knocking on doors, and I don't have one of the shirts with me, but hashtag Volusia get involved. After I realized less than 30% people vote in local elections across the state, I started knocking on doors and I pulled their voting records to see where people weren't voting. And we went in those neighborhoods, myself, elected officials, business owners, other community people who understood the importance of us being heard and seen, but more importantly, consistently active. So that's what I started doing. No money, no nothing, bought t-shirts, everything. Went to county council, invited every council member to walk with me in their respectable district. Only person that did walk with me, believe it or not, was the chair. And I bought t-shirts. I even gave everybody t-shirts at county council. True story. So what that told me is when less than 30% vote, that's a sign of leadership. People do not trust leadership, they're not happy, they're not involved, they're not communicating, they don't feel their vote counts, and that is a fallacy. Many people, especially in black and brown communities, we were raised to believe that. Don't vote, it doesn't matter. And I was one of those people, even though I voted every year, I never really paid attention until I got maybe in my 30s, and I've been voting since 18. That said, it is critical that we get people in here to talk about stuff. When I go to council meetings, they talk about bringing dogs on the beach and parking on the beach, and that's important to them. I'm not belittling that, but I'm more concerned if we get 2 Category 5 hurricanes, we won't have a beach. And nobody wants to talk about that. My master's is in emergency disaster management. I've studied hurricanes. Anything that affects the masses, pandemics, a lot of the things that we're seeing, financial collapse, I study all of that. It is important that we get someone in here, one, that is not a politician. It says politician by default because we deal with politics, but really we need someone from the community. That is actually how government was based, from someone in the community who wanted to do the right thing and make a change. We don't see that a lot here, and we understand that. I can talk about the overdevelopment, but before we get to overdevelopment, we have to talk about the gentrification as well. So there's a lot of issues I talk about people don't. I addressed the human sex trafficking going here. Did you know Volusia County has led the state in sex and human trafficking? But you do not see that on the news. You do not hear that conversation in county council, except the one time FFT, Helping Others, who I do have a relationship with. They came and they made a notice. You know, they presented and they got a proclamation and things. But for the most part, this is happening and this is real. Florida is only third to California and Texas. That should disturb y'all, considering how big California and Texas are, and they're actually at the border. So I'm that person that's a little different. I go against the grain. I call people out. I hold people accountable, and I ask people to hold me accountable. When I'm in office, there's something a little different than me and others as well. I'm actually going to ask for your input. I'm going to come to your house if you tell me we need to sit down and have that conversation. I do it now. I love it. This is what I love about my existence, is that I realized a long time ago, thank God, that my existence and my purpose is bigger than me. And for me not to understand that would be selfish and selfless. I mean, selfish, and I'm very selfish. I try to be selfless, at least let's stay humble about it. But I really do. I am a giver. I'm not a taker. When I ran for mayor, I told them I didn't even want the salary. Y'all could keep it. Because, again, I understand what the problems are, and most of them are not being addressed. Or they're kind of addressed, but they're not put on the headlines. And this needs to be on the headlines. Every newspaper needs to have this on the front of their headlines every week until these numbers drop. So if anybody has questions, I would love to answer them. There's a lot I can tell you, but I'd rather hear. Wait, there's one thing I'm going to ask everybody to do, if you would. Everybody have a cell phone? What I need you to do is type in hashtag breakfast with Boyd. Breakfast with Boyd. If you watch those videos, you will see that for a couple of years now, I have platforms on social media where I discuss issues in the local communities, city, state, federal, different places, and there are issues that a lot of people are not aware of. And so there's just a lot of issues people are not aware of, and those are the things I discuss. I tell people when their local community meetings are, city council meetings, commission meetings, etc. I give people phone numbers. I'm like, I'll get it. Just call them. And honestly, Councilwoman Girtman is one of the people I've given her number to from the council meeting, not her personal number. And people are like, she answered, she helped me and stuff. So there are active people on the council, but for the most part, we don't. And the person I'm replacing, I'm not knocking him, but I think in that position, coming from a sheriff's position, he could have been much more instrumental in an at-large position. Yes. And if you don't understand, I just want to say this part, at large, every district has their own council person. I am kind of like a liaison. You know, I'm the go-between. Kind of what I do now in the community for people, but this would be at the official level. So I don't want anyone to think that as a large representative, we overstep those boundaries. We actually work with that council person. So that's why I try to stay positive and form relationships with a lot of elected officials currently, because they know. I mean, they pick up the phone and call me, and they're like, did you know Sherrise? Or when you go to council, tell them this. I'm like, okay, thank you. So I have the relationships that a lot of people are going to have to forge. I have the experience. I understand the whole county budget. That's my position, budget. So I do have a benefit in that regards. But if anyone has any questions, I'm here for you all.
Right. Do you have any questions from the audience? Do you have any questions from the audience? We have two from online, and they are generic and were addressed to everybody, but you get them. Do you believe the 2020 presidential election was stolen? I do not believe the election was stolen, but I also know from being in this world, people cheat. I'm not saying the president did, but I've seen it. So. You get some hard hitters here. I'll probably spread them around, but I believe the question was, what are your thoughts on gun laws and gun restriction?
Oh, I talked about this on Breakfast with Boyd. So here's my position on guns. I have guns. I love guns. I'm not giving up my guns. Why? Because I have that right to have a gun. I even have the right to form a militia according to the Constitution and its Bill of Rights. Am I going to do that? No. However, I do have guns. I'm a single mom. I've had guns since I was old enough to have a gun in Georgia or whatever, and I was just raised that way. My father, true story, my father gave me a shotgun when I got my first apartment. He was like, here's your housewarming gift. I was like, huh? He was like, don't worry, they hear it, they'll leave. And it's true, they did. So, that's it. I do respect the gun laws. But I think, and this, not anything, I know what the problem is. It's not the gun laws. It's the offenders laws that need to be changed. And the reason I say that is because there's too often you see people get out of jail and then you read about them, oh, they just got out for this, this, and this. We need to be more strict on the people who violate the laws. Don't make it harder on us trying to get guns, because I'll just be honest. If I was like a gangbanger or a crazy person out here trying to kill someone, do you really think I'm going to be like, oh, it's against the law? No. But me, Sherrise, the person who is the upright citizen trying to do everything to stay out of trouble, I'm going to be like, wait, no, I can't take that gun to this city or this state because they don't have reciprocity. So there's a difference, and I think that's where we're failing as people. And people are trying to make it political. It's not political, it's common sense. Stop letting people out of prison that violate the gun laws. You know, they have a 3-strike offender rule and things like that. It's not the law-abiding citizens that should make it be struggling to get the guns that we rightfully should have. So I am very pro-gun laws, and keep your guns if you have them, and if you're one of those people who are trying to shoot up schools and things like that, that's a whole other subject. And yeah, those are the people who are the problem. And how do 16-year-olds get guns?
Yeah, awesome. Those were some loaded online questions, which you can, thank you very much. Yeah, which you can also ask at DeLandPride.org, where there's a giant button. Okay, so the way this works, we have 5 minutes for the candidates, for anybody who showed up later. We have 5 minutes for the candidates to just kind of talk, and then 5 minutes for questions. Is Andy Kelly here?
I am.
There we go. Our final candidate who's here for County Council at Large.
Hello, I'm Andy Kelly. Hi. Homegrown tomatoes right here in DeLand. About a mile up the road, corner of Plymouth Boulevard, born and raised, where my wife and I go to work every day. Andy Kelly, accounting firm. Looking in the back of the room, I see my favorite color. That one. It's the color of my family. Diverse. The color of this room. Diverse. The color of the love.
Yeah, there we go.
Mic check. The color of the love. Diverse. It comes in all colors. When you put it all together, it makes the most perfect color. And that's life itself. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about me. I'd rather answer a lot of questions, because that's more important to me or your concerns. But I'm a lifelong Volusia-gun, 45-year professional accountant. Serving the county council from 2007 to 2012 for 2 terms. Unfortunately, our family went through a lot of setbacks. We were the caregivers for, lost my mom, and my dad, and my brother, and his wife, all through cancer in the last 4.5 years. But we're back with a vengeance. We're back for you. We're back to correct the direction the county's been going in. We're a runaway train wreck. The developments going too fast. We have nothing in preparation for it. Our roadways are not funded, they're not even designed. It's pretty sad when FDOT, Department of Transportation, says our computer modules can figure development out at a normal pace of 1.5%, a maximum of 3% growth in each county per year. What do you do when you have LPGA or Edgewater or even here in DeLand and you have growth that went from 0 people to 22,000 people in one area? What do you call that? You can't get that percentage because it's just unbelievable. No roads in place. Existing people want their roads to be improved. They want their roads they've been paying for years. And a new development comes along and they demand their roads. They've been here, they started paying taxes, and they want roads. It's a catch-22. So many other things. Taxes are always an issue. I did serve during the Great Recession on the county council. It was the bleakest years. At the same time, my council members wanted to increase taxes, and thankfully, through work with the budget, we kept them in line. I did lose 2 years, though. I voted against tax increases because I knew we could go without it. My income doesn't raise every year. I don't know if yours does, but for some reason the budget went up 9.4% this past year. So you can claim you decrease the millage rate, but if the value of the property goes up, even at a lower millage rate, it still ends up in a higher tax overall. So many things to think about. I'm going to answer your question first, since you didn't ask, but I've heard it before. Roe versus Wade set us way back. Not the act 50 years ago, the callback that the Supreme Court did. That sets in motion another train wreck. If they're going to do it, take away women's rights, what are they going to come after next?
That's right.
Gay marriage?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I served in the council.
Yes.
And during that time, first county in the state of Florida, I helped create and pass the first domestic partner registry in the state, right here in Volusia County. So if they go back and say, hey, you can't be married in a state or wherever, we created a registry in which that, as a partner, signed the forms basically saying, swearing that we're a partnership, and you were treated as if you were a spouse. You got, our local business had to honor the fact that they would give you the medical, the same thing as your spouse got. They gave you so many other benefits. And I guarantee you, if we need to, I'll push it forward and have it reenacted right now. Any questions? Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you talked about roads and new roads when you have new developments and stuff, but the roads that exist now, how are they funded, and tax money go into that? How does that work? So if you raise taxes because you have to put new roads in, what happens to the roads that need to be maintained?
The question again is about roads. Every new person that comes in wants and deserves to have their road structure. There are new roads when it comes to new development. Again, the problem is it's not funded. Most of the annexation, most of the sprawl development, which I will vote against sprawl development, intense sprawl development, because it is the issue right now. But when sprawl development is occurring, the majority of the time, it's cities annexing it in. They're not responsible for new roads. The county is for the local roads. The state is for the state roads, and the federal roads for the interstate and highways. So county taxes, a certain amount is for road improvements. But as you build more and more development, there's more road improvements that need to be made. And unfortunately, it's not in place. Impact fees. Everybody knows what that is. When you build a house, you pay $9,400, and for the county, you pay $9,400 in impact fees. About $5,800 of that goes toward road infrastructure for the local roads. But it probably doesn't impact your immediate road if you're a single development, if your large development does stuff like that. But that's back to my concern, is that we need to start paying attention to the roads that need repair now. And we need to stop this runaway growth. Get a grip, get it back together, and let's right this train.
The other thing we need to do is pay attention, because our children that are coming up here aren't going to be able to afford to stay here with the gentrification that's going on.
That's a great segue to an online question that we had. What could you do as county government to slow rising house prices?
Wow. What affordable housing? There isn't any now, including rental. Today, affordable housing is not buying a house. It's getting together enough money and asking your parents to help pay for you to have, if you're a young adult, to help pay for your rent. That's affordable housing today, but even that's runaway, skyjacking prices. 3 years ago, I drove down the road and I took a picture of Miranda homes, starting at 100,000. The next year said high hundreds. Today it says high 200, but there's no lots available in that subdivision. You go down past another one, it says starting in the 450 range. What's affordable about that? 53% of our people, 53% of the new homes that are being sold are sold to people who, New Yorkers, California, wherever they come from, different states. They're selling their properties for $750,000, $1 million, $2 billion. Coming down here, $400,000 is affordable. And they got a lot of extra pocket cash. Will Roberts, our tax collector, made this statement a couple weeks ago. He said, I got a phone call from someone I got the first tax bill, $4,500. Can I help you? Yes, I just got my first tax bill. It's $4,500. Is there a problem? No, I just want to know if it's my monthly bill or... that was serious. And Will Roberts said that's not a joke, unfortunately. It's reality. Affordable housing is the hardest thing to work. What are we going to do? As to affordable housing, unfortunately, the cost of the housing is going to be a lot harder to take care of. As to affordable housing complexes, seniors do have a lot of options. There are about 4 different complexes going on now on the east side. As to our younger adults, Faith Group is a great organization. They've asked several of candidates, they've asked me as well, and I've worked in the past, hey, we need you to give up money for this. I'm into, let's zone a piece of property. Let's take away one of the underlying costs. And then let's ask for, we know people a lot of money. One of my opponents, $94,000 in war chest, tell you, what do you want from me if you give me $94,000? I don't have that much in contributions. On the other hand, my point is that people with money, they love their name. Let them have property development rights, the building rights, a recreational room, get us several $1 million and help bring down that value so we can actually rent it out at an affordable price to those who can't afford otherwise. So it's a process. There's no easy answer.
So when you're talking about affordable housing, when are you going to start addressing no housing? We have no housing. We have nowhere to put girls that come out of the jail. We have nowhere to put girls that come out of treatment with their children. There's no room at the shelters. If you have a client that needs to go to a shelter for domestic violence, you have to wait 2 weeks. When are we going to start addressing that?
She's crossing over from affordable housing to no housing for those who are in dire straits.
We don't have affordable or any rate. We have no housing.
Over the years, if any of you haven't seen me, I've been on the streets. I go out to the camps and homeless camps, one-on-one. And thankfully in the past, I've been able to make those phone calls and people says, okay, I'm done. I'm ready. What can you do? Or young families in need, or single mothers, and put them somewhere. But the next step is the problem. What happens when you go to that rehab or for the first 30 days of which they help placement? There are facilities available.
Where?
We have to do a marchman to different ones.
Where?
But we need to go over Daytona.
No, they're not available, Andy. There's no vacancies.
I was just going to say that, thank you, that there are facilities available. The problem is that right now, because of housing costs again, we're overwhelmed. We're overpopulated. We don't have any extra room in the inn. That is correct. And I was going there. Our facilities available, but unfortunately, there's no extra space available. And we have to work on that. That is a countywide issue, not just a government issue. So help me solve that problem, because I can't solve it myself.
One more piece on the housing.
Yes.
And I was just made aware of this, that there are entities outside of this country that purchase property and space in these new developments, build housing, rent them. They don't want to sell them. They rent them. 4 bedrooms, close to $3,000 a month.
Some of them do it under the non-regulated short-term rentals. Other ones do it for long-term.
Yeah.
We are still an investment market for other people. But for local income, we're not. You're right. There's a lot of people, especially during and after the recession, prices were so low. People from Great Britain, from Europe, they came in with just plenty of cash, and they owned thousands of homes. And the rent was $800 when they started. The same rent, $2,500. The closer you are to a bigger city, the higher the rent goes, $3,000.
Here in DeLand.
2-bedroom in DeLand is $23 for 2. Thank you so much, everybody. Andy
All
Kelly,
of that
Council at Large.
Housing, period.
Yeah.
Bring it all
And if you
under that
have
umbrella.
more questions, they will be here, and you can reach out to them. I'm sure everybody has a card with their email address on them.
You need
Okay.
to have a...
Another thing I want to mention, again, is we have a candidate questionnaire that the candidates have filled out that is available on our website, which is... What's it?
DeLandPride.org.
Yes, DeLandPride.org, which is also where you can ask questions in the form of a question Next up, we have DeLand City Commission, incumbent Jessica Davis.
This mic is hot. I am Jessica Davis, and I am running for re-election to my current seat 3 on the commission. It is an at-large seat, so everyone here can re-elect me. I was elected in 2014 by you. I am the first black woman to be elected. Talk about diversity. So in DeLand, we have made a lot of progress. I do want to thank DeLand Pride for the invitation. This is progress. You know where we have come from. Having DeLand Pride initiate this is a big deal, so thank you. So,
All right.
I am also a teacher at Southwestern Middle School here in DeLand. I teach 6th grade. It's a college and career program where we work with those first generational college students and etc. Before that, I was right here in DeLand working at the Chisholm Community Center as a GED instructor, working with those students with barriers. And I see all of them still working within our community. So I live here, I work here, I play here. I would have brought my 10-year-old daughter here. She wanted to come, but I said, it's a bar, I don't know. But I should have brought her. My husband is here, my campaign team, who all believe in Jessica Davis running for re-election because I have been doing the work. I am engaged. I didn't start yesterday. I've been here, I've been working here, and I will continue to do that. I want to continue to work with you. This is not, I hear the questions, but it's a collaborative effort. We all have to work together to get the things done. As Barb Girtman mentioned earlier, having those people that have already been there, bringing those resources, continue to bring them in. We talked about the homeless shelter. We have the bridge here. Those are the things that we collaborated on. It will not solve it all. As you said, there's still not enough room. There are going to be new homeless people. There are going to be new needs. But staying at the table and working together is what we can do. Infrastructure improvements, those roads. Can't fix it overnight, but working together with the city, with the county, with the state to make sure that we can keep those resources in DeLand. Because a lot of resources sometimes don't make it to the west side of the county, but we want to make sure that they do. Strengthening our public safety, that's huge. While I've been in office for the 8 years, we have a new chief, Chief Umberger. He's been doing a phenomenal job. Community policing, diversity within our police department. There was a time we didn't have the diversity. We recently just hired our first firefighter woman who's black. We didn't have that. So I have brought that diversity to our commission. I brought that diversity to our city because that's what DeLand Pride is about. Please go on DeLandPride.org and look at what I answered and said because that's how I live. A safe space for all. This is not a one-size-fits-all. Look around the room. That's what I embody. That's what I will continue to do. I have my palm card here. I encourage you to learn more. I encourage you to call me. Look at the back. Send money. There's a QR code. Scan it. My website is www.jessicadavisfordeland.com. Let's keep this train moving together by moving DeLand forward. Thank you.
I have several questions specifically for the county council, or the city council rather. As someone who is disabled, the city infrastructure is often lacking when it comes to safe curb cuts, maintained sidewalks, access to parking, etc. How would you address the accessibility needs of the city and its visitors?
Well, as you know, DeLand, we have what we call Old DeLand. There are many areas that we are trying to improve piece by piece. It's one step at a time. Tomorrow, well not tomorrow, but Monday is we're going to have our budget workshop. So that's a question I'm going to bring to the entire commission. Where should we start? Please be specific. If it's a certain area that we can address right away, let us know. We'll get our public works team down there and see if we can fix it right away. But it is a huge city. I don't want to make promises I can't keep. But what I will do is work on it to make sure that we can fix things that we can, especially downtown. We have a big focus. We don't want anyone having any trip hazards in a wheelchair. It's not accessible for everyone. But let us do the work. Tell us where we need to go look at it, and I'll go.
Another question, and by the way, this will be applicable for all city commission who are, so I'll repeat it at the time, I guess. But merchants downtown have seen an influx of homeless in the recent weeks and months. How can the city address this issue, in particular those exhibiting inappropriate and sometimes violent behavior?
Our homeless is a big topic. Our homeless is a part of our community. Our homeless they have so many challenges, and a lot of it is mental illness. We can't push the homeless out. So what we have done, we created the bridge the bridge is not going to fix everything. And then when people hear about it, I don't know how the homeless communicate, but some type of way, when they find out that we have good resources in DeLand, we have new homeless. But we have a new director with the bridge and the neighborhood center. We need to give her a chance. Her name is Savannah. Let her try to implement some of those programs that she wants to incorporate. Work with her, help fund some of those programs. I know my church have, other people can. Collaboration to help get the things done, because they live here, we'll find a space for them. But we don't have as bad of a problem in some areas, so I am grateful for that, and we'll continue to work on that.
We do have time for audience questions if anybody has an audience question. Hey, what a surprise! Would you like to talk about Mike?
This is actually why I came here. Jessica, I have a dear friend of mine. He's 90 years old. He's a Korean War veteran. He lives here in the city of DeLand. The city of DeLand failed to provide adequate backup to their sewer system for a storm situation. His home, just like everybody else's home in here, got flooded with sewage from a failure from the DeLand city sewage system. He went to the city and told them about it and was seeking assistance. The city told him to pound sand and did nothing for him and required him to fight them by seeking legal counsel. A 90-year-old man and his wife. Their home was almost destroyed on the bottom floor. I have sent to every commissioner and those who are running for mayor emails about this, and none of them gave a damn about that old man. What about all these little old people in here? If that happens to them, what the hell are they supposed to do? What will you do to fix and make right for this little old man who's 90 and the rest of us to ensure we're protected? And if it happens again, instead of sending it to the lawyers, the city of DeLand do what is right and fix their damn house.
Well, I don't like being cursed at.
I'm sorry, I wasn't cursing at you. I'm passionate.
I understand your
I
passion.
understand I'm passionate because of I've seen the city
civil discourse, and we would like people like.
I'm being loud so everybody could hear. I apologize.
So please keep the language simple. Yeah.
I understand your passion. My great-grandmother just celebrated her 97th birthday. Yes, we're very blessed in our family to have her. So having a 90-year-old person go through that, that's not what I stand for.
I don't think you do, ma'am.
And I appreciate you understanding that, because people who know me in here know that's not what I do. But we do have lawyers for a reason. So me forwarding the email or inquiring with our attorneys is what we have a process. But that's something I need to revisit. Allow us the opportunity to revisit, to readdress, and to see what else can be done. That's a part of the infrastructure improvement. So when you see our crew down redoing pipes, there's going to be a lag in how it works, and it's not going to all function the next day. So we have to allow the infrastructure improvements to connect, work through it, go through the problems, reconnect. Some of you have contacted me and I fixed the issues, but I can't fix it all. But as far as, I apologize that happened to them. I know I never would tell someone to beat the pavement, but give me some more specifics in another email and I will address it. I apologize that happened.
It's a hot mic, yeah.
Very hot.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Also, City Commission, seat 3 is Deirdre A here?
Yes.
All right. The questions that we had online for this, if you want to address them after, during, or about the influx of homeless and what was the other one?
Accessibility.
Yes, accessibility.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not a politician. I'm just a homegrown girl, born and raised here in DeLand at 713 South Clara Avenue. My birth home is still there. So that tells you my heart is here in DeLand. If any of you ever shopped at the Kmart store, you probably saw me pushing a blue light, doing your layaways in Little Caesars, making your pizza or your breakfast. So my heart is here in DeLand. So what I stand for, and we do have cards, unity, respect, and commitment. So I did write some notes here. So why are we here? We're here to inspire change within our community. When we talk about unity, unity can be defined as unification through harmony. Who doesn't want to have harmony in their hometown where you're expected to be safe, have accessible sidewalks, following ADA policies, procedures. Everyone wants to have a place that they can call home. Home is warming. Home is where you find your peace, your tranquility. And DeLand has been all of that. Maybe not for some of you that are implanted here, but for those that have been here our entire lives. We feel safe here in DeLand. Yes, we may go through some of the things and setbacks that you have gone through or your friend has gone through. That's something that we have to come together as a community. One of my goals is, if I'm elected for this position, is to have town hall meetings, maybe quarterly. So that way, your concerns are not going through this one or that one. It's a time that you can come together in sessions such as this, and we can listen to your concerns. Come together as a committee, bring those concerns to that committee, and address it with you. Having transparency will also bring about some of your concerns, because at that point, it's not through the grapevine as to what's going on in our community. It's what you have brought to our attention that we as a community and as a committee can go through and come to a solution that everyone can be a part of. We also want to talk about respect. Respect for me is something that's very big. So when Aretha say RSPCT, find out what it means to me. The respect that you give is what's reciprocated. And so when we talk about respect, better communication with our law enforcement, the teachers, they're a driving factor for our youth. Our youth, you mentioned, if they're not here, then what happens to our hometown grown DeLand? If our young people don't feel that there's any growth here in DeLand for them. Next, we have commitment, and that could be with supporting one another. We can support our local businesses, such as this, by patronizing our businesses and having concern over regulations and ordinances. Once again, I mentioned transparency. You obviously can't see through me, but I want to be transparent with the growth, with the decisions, and the concerns that are going on here in our hometown of DeLand. I thank you very much for considering me. I really appreciate everyone that came out to support all of our candidates, and we ask that you just really focus on voting, voting, voting. Thank you.
We have a couple of online questions for this as well. What have you done to prepare for your service as a commissioner, and are you involved with any civic or community organizations?
I have not been involved in any civic or organizations of that such. I do have a full-time job. I work for Macy's in Orlando. So a lot of my free time is sitting in I-4, hoping my windshield doesn't get cracked or hoping I don't bring another nail home in my tire. But my commitment is to the city of DeLand. More time that I will commit to will be to the city of DeLand. And whatever seat that I am selected for, which is seat 3, that's the commitment that I will look forward to changing.
Another question is, do you believe that Spring Hill should be annexed into DeLand?
I believe that it should be. A lot of times when you have communities or areas that sit outside of our city limit, they are excluded from a lot of the growth. My husband and I, we get Wawa coffee at least 2 to 3 times a week. And we ride that whole area throughout tonight. Some of our friends like, where are you? Ride with your Wawa coffee through Spring Hill? Yeah, we are. And we see some of the developments, especially over off of Lipson Parkway area near Southwestern. There are apartments that have been sitting stagnant for a very long time. So why would that section of a community not have any growth, no progress in that area? I do see that there are new homes that are going up in that area, but that particular area for me what are we going to do? Why is it some of the things that she mentioned, maybe that can be used as one of the places that someone that is coming out of a rough time, a hard time, use those type of places that have been sitting, grow them, build them, and make them accessible to someone instead of just the grass that's growing around it.
All right, those were our online questions, which people submitted through DeLandPride.org, and you can as well. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Right. What you just said makes perfect sense, you know, in terms of the growth and development. Have you gone to any of the city meetings to say to them to push that? Because it has to happen.
And that is my goal.
So, just for everybody all the way in the back, have you gone to the city commission meetings to push that idea?
To push that idea, because we need people like you to be a part of a larger group of people.
You're absolutely right.
You know, but I'm gonna tell you this. Now you standing up there, and I know you running for Jessica's seat.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all need to get together. You talk about moving together. That's what we need. And the other lady that was here, that's what we need to change this. We don't need to be running against each other. We need to come together. We need you. You need to come and you need to be a part of that. And I know that it must be rough coming from Orlando, I understand all that development out there, but you need to be here.
And that is my goal.
So
that is my commitment to my city.
When you're not here, she's here, and she's always here. Okay, I'm here, although my husband is, that's a whole nother story. But I'm a rebel rouser, and that's what we need. I'm saying, you need.
One question.
That's the question right there.
Question answer.
Right, you need to be a part of what's happening in the city. You need to be there. You got to be there, and you got to have that experience in doing that, because that's what gets things done. I know what I'm talking about.
All right, thank you so much.
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Questions?
You hear me?
And another way, of course, is our candidates will be here, and you can talk to them after the question and answer time and raise your specific concerns. Okay, so up next we have, and this is a hot mic. This is actually a really great opportunity to be engaged locally, and to express your concerns, and to see how people feel specifically about LGBTQ issues, which you can find at DeLandPride.org with our community questionnaire. Okay, so up next we have Dan Reid, City Commission, Seat 4.
All the way from the back.
All right, Mr. Reid, here you go.
Thanks Eli for being the moderator here. Thanks to DeLand Pride for putting this on. Thanks to the Abbey for hosting. If you're here and enjoying this evening, you got a couple people back there behind the bar, Robert and Sage. Make sure you give them some love. It's my job. Okay, Dan Reid, most famously or infamously known.
Hey, I don't know you.
Okay, I thought you were talking to me. As the owner of Cafe Da Vinci. DeLand Pride recently awarded Cafe Da Vinci, and I guess myself, as the Community Business Partner of the Year, so thank you. I feel like I should be a Leah. Make some noise. Every time I take a break, it's a Pride event, I'm supposed to say make some noise. I gotta be honest, standing in the back there, I felt like I was on an episode of Seinfeld. We're just waiting for my gig to come up.
And now it's your time.
Okay, so Cafe Da Vinci, Community Partner of the Year. I'm also president of DeLand's Arts, Cultural, and Entertainment District Board. If you don't know what that is, we push the Arts, Culture, and Entertainment District, which last year we finally got our signs up after about a year battling with the DOT of where we could put them. You can find them on, let's see, just south of Voorhees and right around Plymouth and Woodland, just past Clara, and then at Amelia, and that kind of signifies what the Arts, Culture, and Entertainment District is. I'm also on the board of directors for the Matt Booth Foundation. We give, thank you. We give scholarships to some high school kids that are involved in music and the arts, and one scholarship is always guaranteed to go to a DeLand student, and then one goes to another student in Volusia County. I'm running for City Commission because I wanted to bring a fresh, new voice to the commission, bring back the idea of a downtown business owner sitting on the commission. I think the people that are there have been doing a great job. You know, it's a tough job, it's a thankless job. There's a lot of things that people don't agree with, and that's part of that's what we take on when we do public service. We take on that role. And I've been on the zoning and planning board for the city, if you don't know, for about 1.5 years. And that, you know, that's a tough gig. And we see things before it comes to the commission. And whether we like it or not, we give it a yes, we give it a no, but it always goes to the city commission. So I look forward to being part of that next step in helping shape DeLand. Thank you. I know, you know, growth is a hot topic button for everybody in this town. We all know it's the inevitable, I think, at this point. We can't stop it, but we can be responsible about it. We can do some things that will sustain a more healthy level of growth. I don't have all the answers. I'll be the first one to tell you. Just like Deirdre, who was up here before me, I am not a politician. I'm just a guy. This is my first time ever running for an elected office. But I look forward to making some choices and some decisions for the betterment of you all sitting out here, the community, myself, my family. I have a 27-year-old daughter, I have a 7-year-old son, and I have a 2-month-old grandson. Thank you very much. And I want DeLand to be their home just like it's my home. From today, moving forward for the rest of their lives, when I'm long gone, I want this to be a great place for future generations. It's important to me that starts now. Because if we don't, we're not going to be where we need to be. And I feel as it pertains to our town, the road that got us to where we are today is not the road that gets us where we need to be. Not for DeLand Pride, not for the city of DeLand, not for any of us. We need to find a new road to the new chapter, for the next chapter that's going to be DeLand. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Usual specific. All right, keep it as a question, please.
I will. Now you serve, in the position that you're still sitting on those boards.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? And you see how the whole growth pattern has happened. How long have you been on those boards?
I've been on the zoning and planning board for about 1.5 years.
Oh, okay. And so you see the direction that everything is going in.
I do.
Okay. How should that change? Because if it doesn't, people who want to stay in DeLand, they can kiss it goodbye. But how should that change?
I think there's a lot of ways they could change, and like I said a minute ago, I don't have all the answers. I look forward to working with whoever is on that dais, if I'm elected, to be part of those solutions. But I do think low-impact development needs to be at the top of that list. I think there's a lot of clear-cutting going on that nobody is happy about. I also think there are some builders and contractors that have not lived up to their part of the agreement. And there needs to be repercussions. And I don't know what that is, but people need to be held responsible for their actions. And I'm just going to give you one example. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to say if you build a subdivision and you have a required, let's call it 30-foot landscape buffer, where you're not supposed to be able to see that subdivision from, I don't know, let's say Stone Street. And you're driving down Stone Street and you can clearly see that landscape buffer has not been properly designed, there should be ramifications for that. It shouldn't just be, oh, well, we'll see you later. Guess that didn't work out the way we planned. And I'm sure that there may be some level, but I don't know what that is. But I'm going to look into that and see how we can make that happen going forward.
One more quick question.
Sure.
So if you have a tract of land and somebody says, well, you know what, I want to, like Victoria Park, because when we moved here 20 years ago and had a house built in the timbers, okay, they promised, oh, all this development. I said, yeah, right, it's happening, and it's moving still forward. But somebody gets all this land, and they want to build there. Can't the city say, fine, you want to build there because you make a lot of money, but a certain percentage of that has to be designated for low or moderate income families in the city?
To be honest
if
with you,
want it.
I'm not sure that the city can dictate that.
If you own the land, you can.
Well, if the person that owns the land, but the city, I'm not sure the answer to that question.
Right.
And I understand exactly what you're saying. And I'm always a fan of saying that we need expanded housing opportunities, not just affordable, because I think affordable puts us in kind of a pigeonhole sometimes. So I look for expanded housing opportunities, but I feel where you're coming from on that. I really do. But I don't know what authority the city would have to say to a landowner or developer, you have to have a certain amount. And I know we do make recommendations on the Zoning and Planning Board. We do make recommendations about rental properties, townhomes, things that people can afford versus the $500,000-$700,000 homes that you want to sell for big money. I get that.
If they want it bad enough, they'll do whatever you tell them.
Absolutely.
Okay?
We've somehow gotten slightly off of schedule. I don't know how.
I'm sorry, I'll leave.
No, you're good. That's not. This is just how this works. So you can go a little off schedule. But in all fairness, I want to have somebody who hasn't yet asked a question. And if you would like, you can go to DeLandPride.org and press the button and ask a question there. Would you like to come up and speak into the mic, or
no?
Shut it out.
For the best interest of the downtown, what should happen to the old jail site?
Let me go grab my can of worms and I'll be right back. There's I mean, this is a tough one.
Let's be honest.
In a perfect world, I would have loved to have seen that building somehow, some way be repurposed. I know it's not impossible. I know that it's a daunting task to do it. It does not come cheap. But I feel like it's become such a part of our skyline on that street, that it's really difficult. And I know what the plan is that's there in place right now. And I think that plan has made some changes, and I think it has a bigger uphill battle at this point than we all know about. But, obviously, from a guy that owns a business across the street that is loud, I certainly don't think people should be living on Georgia Avenue, but that's their choice. Hopefully they realize that going in. I also don't believe we need more offices in downtown. I mean, if you're just asking my opinion, this is just my opinion. COVID has taught us one thing. It's taught a lot of corporate entities that they don't need office space anymore.
Yes.
Everybody has been functioning well, productively working from home. The people that want to build that building also know that, which is why their plans changed and took one floor off of the building, because they didn't need their own office space. So, yeah, I don't agree with what's there, but I wasn't a decision maker at that point, and I don't necessarily know that that's ever going to come to fruition. It may not. There's still a long road to hoe with that one. I encourage everyone who is for or against that to attend the commission meetings when it comes up, or the zoning and planning meetings. We just had it in front of us at zoning and planning, and we gave them a lot of questions to come back to us with. Unfortunately, whether we vote yes or no, it still goes before commission, because that's just the way the process works. Our vote is just a recommendation. But I would encourage everybody to attend those meetings. And before Eli takes the mic away from me...
I have one more question.
Oh, she has one more question, okay.
An online question? Wow! Okay, nice. Oh, at DeLandPride.org. Alright, yeah, okay, yeah. What inspired you to run, and what is the first thing that you want to accomplish?
Thanks. What inspired me to run? Well, Chris Cloudman actually kind of inspired me to run. I mean, to be fair, Chris is an awesome dude. He'll get his chance to get up here earlier. I don't want to steal his thunder. But I had actually kind of resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to do it. And I actually ran into Chris on the street one day, and he's like, "No, come on, man, you got to do it." And so he twisted my arm, and here I am. But honestly, I'd also love to serve my community. I've been doing it for a long time now in the zoning and planning. I've been doing it for 11 years at Cafe Da Vinci. That's what we do. We serve the community day in and day out. So it's not a far stretch. It's a little more political. I have to watch my P's and Q's. I don't get to run my mouth as much. I have to turn the filter on from time to time. But Yeah, that's what inspired me. What do I hope to accomplish first? There's a million things. I guess honestly, the first thing I'd like to accomplish is to get my bearings straight, get my head screwed on, and know what I'm doing before I make real serious decisions. So I want to get through the learning curve as quickly as possible, and I will lean on, you know, the people that have been there, that are there. And once I get that straight, I just look forward to serving the community day after day. I look forward to being a eyes and ears of the community because I am involved in the community. I am out here every day. You see me zipping up and down the street in my golf cart. You can yell at me at any time. I pull over and talk to people all day long. Last but not least, before I go, 2 things. Back there in the back is my campaign manager, David. If you'd like to put a sign in your yard, he'd be happy to give you one. I will encourage you to say I would love the support, but signs don't win elections, votes do. So on August 23rd, please come out and vote for me. And last but not least, 1 page out of Jessica Davis's book. Go to danfordeland.com, click on the donate now, send me a couple bucks, thanks.
All right, City Commission again. First up, Kevin Reid. Different seat, this is seat 5, right?
What was that website that they can do an online question?
Do you guys know?
DeLand Pride. Please go online and ask a question. But first of all, I was a little late to the festivities tonight. I drove to Tallahassee, drove back because of the importance of tonight. So dropped my son off at summer camp. But my name's, for those that don't know you, my name's Kevin Reid. I was elected to serve on the City Commission, seat 5, in 2018. After serving on the planning board prior to that. A little bit about myself. I actually am not from DeLand. I grew up in Miami. In 2000, I discovered DeLand when I was, actually a little bit before 2000, discovered DeLand as I was doing some college tours and realized that this is the place that I wanted to, 1, go to school, 2, raise a family. And met my wife at college at Stetson. And she's a school teacher here in DeLand, born and raised. And we're raising 4 sons in DeLand. So 4 boys. So you can imagine, it's a little fun. We added a dog to the mix about 2 weeks ago, so that's even more fun. But just a little about myself. You know, DeLand's great because of the community that we're a part of. And I'm happy to say that I've been an active member in the community for a number of years. I served as the president of the Rotary Club DeLand. I serve on the board of the Rotary Club. I'm also a board member for PAL. For a little that don't know what PAL is, Police Athletic League, it was partnered with the county sheriff. Being a board member, we committed with the DeLand Police Department and have reinvigorated that program. And it really serves to create positive relationships with youth between the police department and the community. Additionally, very active in the community, whether it's putting flags down on Main Street. Just recently wrapped up a book drive. Thanks for all those that participated. We teamed up with a local bookstore, the Family Bookstore here in DeLand, and the house next door. And they have a summer program, and we were able to get 10 books for each of those summer camp kids so that they can start a library of their own. A lot of those kids don't have books of their own, so these are the first books they get. All of them are reading counts books, and just really trying to our youth is our future. I'm very passionate about our youth. DeLand needs additional playing fields for our youth. We're constantly sending our kids to other cities to play sports, so that's something actively in this next budget round that I'm pursuing. And, we know growth is a major factor in DeLand. I think everyone on the commission realizes that growth is a major factor on the commission. And, we don't ask for landowners to sell their land. We don't ask for developers to come to DeLand and develop. Sorry, I should rephrase that. We have asked developers we have asked to incentivize developers to bring affordable housing to DeLand. So that's the only time we've asked for developers to look at DeLand. But we have put in additional requirements. We're getting the Beersford extension built. For Victoria Hills, when that was originally planned, it was supposed to have Blue Lake go all the way out to 472. That's coming to fruition. Planned, partnering with the county to get that planned and built. I think the only part we're waiting on now is for the right-of-way to be purchased. So we're getting stuff done. I was elected in 2018 to get, and listening to the constituents back then of what the issues were. Roads, how do we improve those? Worked on the Beersford extension, worked on the 472 extension into Victoria. Parks. For those that don't know, we're trying to partner with the county. We have, working with one of the landowners in the area to purchase 128 acres just north of Victoria Gardens for a nature preserve, an active park, which is across the street from 13 acres that we'd like to get the fields built on. So really creating that additional outdoor and preserving some of the wilderness that a lot of people really want to preserve in the area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm always available. My website, and no relation to the other Reid that's running. We come from a different family, so he's a great guy, but no blood relation. Sorry, Ken. But happy to answer any questions. You can go to my website, follow me on Facebook. I put a lot of the city information out on my Facebook page, reidfordeland.com. Phone number's there, also on the city website. So with that.
And you can also go check the candidate questionnaire, which is on our website. We did have two questions. That DeLand has some issues with accessibility when it comes to parking and curb cuts, etc. What can you do on the commission to improve accessibility?
In regards to parking, or just, yeah. All right. So that's always a concern. In downtown DeLand, it's a little more difficult because of the historical nature of some of the streetscapes and whatnot. But it's always something that we're looking to improve. We've got the greenway that we're putting in place. That's a perfect way, perfect time to make some of those adjustments in our community. If you don't know what the greenway is, it's a bike path, 8 feet wide. It goes it runs from Southland all the way. We want it to run north. So anything that's new that's being built, if it's not following any ADA standards that need to be done, that's wrong, and we need to correct that as soon as possible. And if there's areas that we need to work on to improve in Old DeLand, I don't think there's anyone on the commission that, with that feedback, will try to come up with a solution. Don't know if it'll be an overnight solution, but we'll try to come up with a solution.
This is another online question. What has been the biggest disappointment in the time that you've served?
Biggest disappointment. Some of the Facebook posts or social media posts that are out there, people are very passionate about certain areas, certain issues, and sometimes it's with blinders, sometimes it's warranted. But sometimes it's hard not to take them personal. People can be as loud as they want on Facebook, and you got to realize this isn't our day job. We're doing this to serve the community. We're people. We make mistakes, and I will have a conversation with anyone at any time, preferably not past 10 o'clock. I've got a family, but being accessible to the community is very important to me. My personal cell phone number is on the city's website, and have always tried to reach back out to the community when I'm asked a question or attempt.
Hey, do we have any audience questions?
I'd like to ask this one.
Yeah, sure.
90-year-old man had his home flooded with sewage, city of DeLand.
Yep.
And
I heard you when you were talking.
And the process is to shove him off to the attorneys.
I heard this bill when you were talking.
How can we do better?
And I appreciate you bringing this up. I know we've communicated a number of times through email. I mentioned that I was in the process of getting information. The information that I've gotten so far is that it was actually handled through our insurance claim process. So it went through an insurance attorney. So I'm still working on getting on a little bit more information on that aspect. And obviously every citizzen in DeLand is important, especially veterans. I mean, I think DeLand does a great job of illustrating the importance that we have and the pride that we have for our veterans that have served in the military. And you know, it's something that I don't have enough information to make a decision on, and I'm committed to getting more information, and that's all I can do right now is get more information. Anything that I look at, we have to get all of the facts, or the majority of the facts that we can get, and from there we can make change.
I look forward to hearing from you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Up next. Up next we have Matthew Johnson. Also running for City Commission seat 5.
First off, I want to say thank you to DeLand Pride for putting this together. Appreciate the opportunity. Like she said, my name is Matthew Johnson. Please call me Matt. Like some of the others, I'm not a politician. I never planned on being a politician. I grew up thinking politics didn't matter because they didn't care about me and it didn't affect my life. But over the course of the last, since 2016, we've seen that locally, all the way up, they absolutely can in every way possible. I'm a believer, a huge believer, in defending the rights of everybody in the community. Doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter where you were born, your skin color, or your family dynamic. And I believe you had asked a question about what someone would do as a local candidate if Tallahassee decided to say something about gay marriage. First of all, I believe the government doesn't have a business telling you who you can marry. That's between you and who you choose to marry. Luckily, here in Florida, we have this fantastic law, Florida Home Rule, where the local politicians and the local governments can stop that from happening. Unfortunately, most don't do that. I would be that brick wall that Tallahassee falls against. That's what I stand for. My wife, my beautiful wife Beth, she grew up here all of her life. She has been here for, I'm not even going to say your age, but loves the city so much that we bought her mom's house and we are raising our wonderful son Gabriel here. The last couple of years, I've been looking at politics, which I hate. It's a dirty, nasty, ugly business. But it's necessary in a free society, to some extent. And I've been looking, and I've heard the phrase, a runaway train used with regards to the overdevelopment and things of that nature. And as I looked, I kept seeing the same names being appointed to the planning board or the zoning and development commission, and then all of a sudden they're married to a former mayor's daughter or whatever, and it's the same names over and over and over. And I'm not trying to attack anybody tonight, Kevin, please don't take it that way. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I chose to run to be the change. And, you know, I don't really want to take up too much time. I would rather personally hear your concerns. What concerns you have that I may be able to answer.
Questions from the audience?
Y'all are making it easy. Also, my wife Beth has palm cards, or whatever you want to call it, and as all the others have mentioned, if you have a question or a question on an issue or how I would handle the situation with your friend, please feel free to visit matt4delands.com. Shoot me an email. I will email you back with whatever I can dig up on the situation and how I would have handled it within 24 hours.
Thank you.
Your question?
Yeah. What experience do you have with civic or community groups?
Okay, so as of 6 years ago, I kind of had to put a lot of that on hold. I was a business owner. I had a web design and internet marketing business for 5 years, where I was a member of the West Volusia Regional Chamber. I was the chair for their marketing committee. My wife and I both also served on the board of directors for a domestic violence nonprofit for 2002 now. For it's about the past 6 years. While I don't sit on any current boards. I have attended school board meetings. I have been to Tallahassee. I have stood up for the rights of the people of the great state of Florida for 6 years against any and all government overreach.
Thank you very much. Did that prompt any thoughts? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for running.
We're going to take a quick break from DeLand and move to the school board. Yeah. School board, seat 1. First candidate is Georgann Carnicella.
So I don't know why I'm always first. Al Bouie's a B and I'm a C, and every time we go somewhere, I'm first. I tried to switch seats at the diet, that doesn't work. So I'm not sure what's going on. But my name is Georgann Carnicella. Only my dad called me Georgann, and it was usually when I was in trouble. Sorry. And I can always tell who's calling me if I'm in Walmart. If someone is yelling Miss C, I know them from either prison, jail, or treatment. If someone's calling me Georgie, I know they're just one of my friends. I have been working in the mental health field for the last 29 years. I started out at Tomoka working for the chaplain, and we did all kinds of programs. I went to the house next door for 7 years. I worked for Bridges as a substance abuse counselor, and for the last 9 years, I've been with Healthy Start. And that is why that question I asked Andy was so close to my heart, because we do not have housing. I just spent 2 hours in a meeting this morning talking about money that may be coming down from Tallahassee for housing for women and children specifically. You know, we've had women live in the woods. How are you supposed to teach them how to take care of their kids when they're living in the woods? So I'm sorry if I got passionate, but that is one of my passions. The reason why I'm running for school board is because I want to make a difference. I do not have an education background. I haven't been a teacher. I've never been a principal, but I can bring different things to that board. And my vision is to create a safe and stable environment for our children. Our children are in a toxic atmosphere. And we haven't even thought about dealing with the trauma from the shooting that happened a month ago, but now we have a shooting 2 days ago. And when I'm driving in Walmart and looking at the roof, you know that something's going on. Our kids need to have a safe and stable environment. And we need to work collaboratively with nonprofits, with Sheriff's Department, with the PD to create that space. And I'm going to repeat a story that I say all the time. Some of you are my age in here, and remember when we were told to go under our desks because the atom bomb was coming? It wasn't going to save us. But they wanted us to feel safe, and that's what we have to do, is create a safe environment. I would like to collaborate with the teachers, with the community, with the parents. I would like to do a survey monkey for people that are in District 1, to have the parents come to the table when we're going to do something different. And I would like to bring the children and the kids to the table and ask them what they want. We can no longer ask our kids, why are you behaving the way you are? We have to ask them, what happened to you? We have to help them develop empathy. And after July 1st, it's going to be more difficult to do that, because not only did the statute change about if your child comes out to a teacher, they have to call the parent. There's also the statute that was emancipation statute. I don't know if you all know that if a 16-year-old between 16 and 18 was pregnant, they were emancipated for HIPAA. That's gone. So now the caregiver or the parent is totally in charge with no input from that child at all as to what to do with that pregnancy or that baby. So we have to change what we're doing, and I just found out this morning that even therapists no longer have that confidentiality for a child that's in therapy. If somebody says something to them, they have to go right to the parent. So we have to create a safe road to go to the parents, and I'm not opposed to parents knowing about their kids. I'm a mom. I have a daughter. She graduated DeLand High School, went through surgical test school, graduated with Bouie with her degree in nursing.
And I was very involved. According to her, I was the nosiest mom in DeLand. But we have to do it in a safe way so our children don't end up doing something else and something more dangerous. There probably was 100 red flags for that young man yesterday that killed all those people at that parade. I mean, and nobody paid attention. We have to pay attention. We have to be able to listen to, if this lady lives next door to me and she says, you know, something's wrong, you know, I'm seeing your kid crying and something. We have to be able to embrace her and say, we're going to find out what's going on, not tell her, don't tell me how to raise my child. And that is how we have to create that. We have to create. DeLand is a great town. And I always used to say, you know, when my daughter went to school, she graduated in '09. If she did something on the south side of town, I knew it before she got home on the north side of town. Because someone would call me. And we have to keep that. And we have to create that safe environment for our children so that they can come back to this city and feel safe and want to come back to where they're born. So that's why I'm here. And thank you so much for having me. Oh, one more thing. This is my palm card. For those of you who have grandchildren, ask them how to work the QR code, because I didn't know until my grandchild told me. But that will take you right to my website, and if you can donate, I would be very appreciative. I'm a really green campaign, but I'm out there as much as I can because I quit my job to do this. I thought my husband was going to have a heart attack, but I can't go out there and campaign if I'm working full-time. So this will be my full-time job.
So we actually got an online question that spoke to some of the things you just mentioned about the Don't Say Gay bill. And it was, how do you ensure safety and privacy for the students when you also have to abide by state law? So how do you do that balance, and how do you find that route?
According to the state law, there is no privacy anymore. So it's not a protected statute anymore. So I think we're going to have to work together as teachers, as school board members, and we have to build that trust again with the school board members because I think they're not trusted anymore. We have to create that trust, build that trust back so that we can have that collaboration. But when you're talking about a statute, you have to follow the statute, and we have to find out how we're going to covertly, you know, bring in all the stakeholders and wrap around services around this child who maybe didn't know that everybody was going to find out.
I think so. We did, I just got another one is, how do you deal with the emphasis on parents' rights when student rights seem to be ignored?
Well, parents definitely have to have rights. I'm a parent. I would never want somebody to just tell me I don't have any rights with my child.
The exact phrasing is reconcile the call for parents' rights with the students' rights being ignored.
Well, right now it's hard to find out what student rights are. The best thing that I could tell you is to have, there's more people here than are at school board meetings. So if you want to be involved, go to the school board meetings. You don't have to get up and talk to the people, but just go there so you know what's going on, because if it doesn't happen, then the people on the dais are going to make the decisions. And it's not about fighting with each other, it's about coming together and saying, this is what's best for my child. You know, I don't know what would happen if a parent went to the school and said, listen, I trust you as the teacher, and so I'm going to trust that if my child talks to you about something confidential, that we're going to have a conversation without name calling and without, you know, putting it all out there. Because I don't know how that's going to work when, you know, parents are getting phone calls, and what happens if I just don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how that trust between a teacher and a student is going to stand up when this happens.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
Tell them to talk as loud as you, Eli.
You gotta talk as loud as me.
Well, I'm a teacher, so I can talk loud.
All right.
You guys hear that? No, all right. Okay, go ahead.
I just retired as an educator after 40 years.
And most of those years I was a guidance counselor. In fact, one of my students was Kevin Reid, who was just out here 24 years ago down in Miami. The things you're talking about that we need are right, and it's wonderful. But we don't have the people to do it anymore. I just checked 2 weeks ago, there were 26 openings for school counselors in Volusia County. Now there are 25. They hired one in 2 weeks. There are no people out there, and people do not want to come to work in the school system because of the pay and the conditions, and what's going on in Tallahassee is running people out of the profession. So as a school board member, what can you do? I don't know if there is anything you can do, but there's a real problem. You can't do all the wonderful things you want to do in the schools if the people are not there to do it.
And I agree. And the top, the pay for starting teachers is something like $47,000. You can't pay your student loans off with that. And we're entrusting our children for that. So we have to raise the salary. We have to, and that would entail raising taxes. So we have to, again, come together as a community and say, this is worth it. These are our children. If we want our children to get educated in a manner that is proper, then we have to raise the salary. I worked at, I won't say what it is, but it took me from 1998 to a month ago to get to $17 an hour. And my job was to educate prenatal women and do parenting with them after they had their children, and get them into treatment, and help them get housing, which never happened, and teach them about delivering babies, and teach them about postpartum depression, all of that. So the salaries here are not what they should be, and the salaries for teachers need to be at least what their student loans are for that year.
We have one more online question. You ready for it? Okay, all right. LGBTQ plus Bullying Awareness Week was voted down last year. How do you feel about that, and would you be willing to bring that back on the table?
Absolutely, absolutely. Here's why. I had a girls group at Heritage Middle School for 3 years, 7th and 8th graders. And they wanted me to come in and they wanted me to do a bullying program. There is a bullying program that's been sitting there for approval to get started at least for a year. But one component they're missing is, guess what? Anybody? The parents. So when I did bullying at Heritage Middle School, they asked me, what time do you want the kids in the cafeteria? I said, I don't want the kids. What do you mean you don't want the kids? I want the parents. Invite the parents. Because the kids, that's learned. Bullying is learned. So bullying for anybody is learned by parents. So we have to educate people. And you're not going to educate everybody. There are people out there who are never going to change their mind. Would I support that? Absolutely. Any kind of program somebody wants, if I get elected, bring it to me. I will present it. Because we did anger management, we did parenting, we did teen sexuality. I taught that for 7 years at the house next door. I'm in the jail twice a week, teaching parenting and anger management to inmates who came out of Volusia County schools. They're all young, and every one of them went to school in Volusia County. And the question that was missed is, what happened to you that made you want to fight last night? We're not asking the right questions. They've taken everything from the school. They've taken social emotional learning. We can't teach that. We need to teach that. We need to teach empathy. We need to teach caring. We need to teach history. Not some made-up history, but history that we all learn. It didn't hurt us to learn it.
The truth.
That's right. We need to teach
the truth.
So.
Thank you very much. I have no idea why you're always first. Because next we do have Bouie. School board, District 1.
That's Reid. That ain't Al, that's Reid.
Good evening, and thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation. As you already been told, my name's Bouie, and I'm running for School Board District 1. Just a little bit about me. I have been a professional educator for 47 years. 40 of those years right here in Volusia County Schools. I was the first African-American male hired at DeLand High School. Some of you might remember Alan Bales. I don't know, maybe not. But I had a great experience there, and I was also an athletic coach. Matter of fact, I'm now in the Hall of Fame, in the Athletic Hall of Fame at DeLand High School. But in those 40 years, I've been in the trenches almost at every level. I've been a classroom teacher, as I mentioned, at DeLand High School, an athletic coach. I've also been, when I left there, a building administrator for 12 years. 3 of those years I was an assistant principal at Southwestern when it was a 7th grade center. The other 9 I served as a principal, not only at one level, but all 3 levels. 3 years as an elementary school principal, 4 years as a middle school principal, and 2 years as a high school principal. Made a full circle, came back to DeLand High School. I was also district administrator for teacher recruitment and retention for 12 years before I retired from Volusia County Schools. During that time, I earned the distinction of being the Principal of the Year when I was a middle school principal. I loved it. You would think a high school teacher has no business in an elementary school. Well, that's not true. That was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it helped me identify with teachers at the elementary school level, because they taught me something about working with children at that level, the affective side of education. In high school, you're teaching content in a vertical building situation because you're trying to get the kids ready for college. Now, every child is not going to college, but you're building content. In an elementary school, it's a little different. You start with making the child feel good about themselves, appreciating themselves, and having them identify with their teacher and having them interact with their teacher. I brought structure to the school. They expanded my affective side of understanding education. Now, if you haven't been in the trenches, you may not know that. But I believe, and I'm not putting my opponents down, I can relate to elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers, elementary school principals, middle school principals, high school principals, because I've been there in the trenches. I know what it's like. And I'll tell you something else too. I don't know whether you've noticed the recent report in the News Journal about our school district, where we're rated below average around the state for this last FAS, the statewide testing program, which has now been canceled. But it basically said our school district sucks. Failure for our kids is not an option. We have to do better. And if you know what education is about, and you've been there, and you understand the dynamic that takes place between the teacher and the student in the classroom, then it's a matter of making those things happen. I've been trained in effective schools research. It's not rocket science. We know what we have to do in order to empower that reaction between the teacher and the student. There are certain things you do. First of all, your budget has to show it. You support the people who are actually making learning happen, your teachers. You support the people at the school level who make the school safe and make sure the teachers and the students are safe, and they monitor. There are certain things you do to make schools safe. We have to make schools safe. We have to make schools work. If we say we support teachers, then the budget should show it. And yes, we do need more counselors, sir. We do. When I was a principal at a high school, we had a little bit of leverage with our units. I sacrificed a unit to hire another guidance counselor because I had 7, but we had 2,700 kids in the school at the time. And I thought we needed a counselor for our ESE students to give them the same special attention as we were giving all the other students. You have to be deliberate about what you're doing. If you say you are for quality education for all of your students, then there are certain behaviors you act out. It's not, they're not hidden. You don't just say it. You got to do something. And for us to take our school district back to the top, we've got to do something. And I believe I'm qualified to help a visionary superintendent do what is needed to take our students back to the top of learning. That's what our schools need to be focusing on. That interaction between the teacher and the student has to work. If it doesn't, we need to evaluate it and find out what does work. Now, I could tell you I'm a member of the various committees and community events organizations here, and I am. I'm involved in the community. I'm a Rotarian. I'm on the board of Advent Health Hospital. I'm on the board of PALS, like Kevin, because I believe in community, but I also believe in our schools, and our schools have to work. And I believe I'm qualified to be there at the school board to support a visionary superintendent who wants to make our schools work for all of our kids. And that's part of why I'm running. To make sure we have safe schools, to make sure all of our children have quality opportunities for education, to make sure we support our teachers, not only with salary, but with curriculum support in the classroom, because that's where learning takes place. Sure, we can say we're for the kids, but if we're not for learning, then I think we're missing the mark. There's a difference. So we got to understand what the dynamics are between the student and the teacher in the classroom to make our classrooms work. And I don't mean just classrooms with brick and mortar walls. We have classrooms outside. Teachers take their classes to field trips, take them outside just to learn about nature. A classroom is wherever that interaction between the teacher and student happens. And that's the magic of learning. Students learning is what school's all about. Our test scores will go up. Our school district will be impacted. And if we show that, then we're going to have a stronger community, because now we are partnering with our parents, which have to be, that. When I was a principal in an elementary school, if I walked out of my school, and it was in Spruce Creek Elementary in the Port Orange area, I walked out of my school and I didn't see parents in my media center. I didn't see parents volunteering with the teachers in the classroom. If I didn't see parents in special area, phys ed, music, the arts, I got concerned. I called up my PTA president and said, hey, what's going on out there? Because it was a school that had a very active PTA, an interactive community. Am I going on too long?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
We'll just go right into the questions. All right. What will you do different than other board members?
Well, first of all, I think I bring experience to the school board District C. And again, I'm not putting down my other candidates, but I don't know whether anyone can say they have 40 years of experience in running this time. And have worked as a classroom teacher, has been a building administrator for 12 years, been principal of the year, also been a district administrator where I recruited and trained new teachers, and I had to focus on diversity, recruiting different teachers for a special area like science, math, social studies. I know the area, and I've also been trained in effective schools research. We applied that a few years ago. We had an awesome school district. Other districts are coming to Volusia to see what we were doing. I think I'm qualified to help a visionary superintendent.
So another question that we had online is, with the new laws, like the Don't Say Gay, taking effect for the next school year, how do we keep students who may need to confide in their teachers some privacy?
This is a big issue, as you all know. And I think right now, the school districts are going through what the law is saying and trying to work out what we must do to maintain order. First of all, we got to make sure all of the students are safe. They must be safe. And we've got to work out the situation where our students feel like they're so safe in using whatever part of the school campus they may be wanting to use. Sometimes because of the structure of our buildings, schools aren't built to accommodate some of the new rules that are in place. We're going to have to come up with some rules that will allow all students to feel that whenever they are using any part of the school district facility, that they're safe, they're doing it safe. And that is still being worked out. So since the law is very new, this is a focus area that we're going to have to work on to make sure we, as I said, first of all, make sure everyone is safe and make sure everyone maintains their dignity at whatever age.
Audience questions? Now would be the time to raise your hand. Okay, first and then second.
You know somewhat of my background, 50
Yes,
years
I do.
plus.
Audrey is a former city commissioner and very active in the community.
Right. But I was a Head Start administrator. I don't know if anybody knows anything about
Head Start administrator,
But
yes.
the philosophy, the concept of that program, and the organizational structure of that program is what the school district needs to have. It brings parents, the children, and the community together. You can't get it done without those three components.
Well,
bring it together.
I agree with you.
You can't do it. You cannot do it.
One of the, if you get one of my palm cards, you'll notice one of my points is building stronger relationship with parents and community.
That's right.
You cannot have a public school district that is thriving, one that is supportive and functioning for our students without including the parents. There has to be a strong relationship there.
Very strong.
Absolutely. And that was my comment about a little while ago when I was in elementary school. Now, I tried to make that happen in the middle school. Parents tend to drop off a little bit. In the high school, we just couldn't get it going, although we had PTA in all three levels. But, yes.
And I know that we got a lot of nonsense coming down out of Tallahassee or wherever from, what's the governor's name? I try not to remember it. No, I'm serious. People that I try not to even remember their name, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
And all of that nonsense, okay? We educate our children, our parents, and our community, not with nonsense. Okay, because if you're ignorant, you just don't know. That's ignorant. But when you don't want to know, and you throw stuff out there, that's stupidity, and we cannot have that. So what we've got to do, for this whole educational piece, we got to get rid of those people.
That's a great.
Send them out because they work for
Question answer time. So have a question.
I'm sorry.
Let me say this too. Let me say this too.
I get very passionate about this.
Yes, and Arthur's very passionate, and y'all know that. I know that. I want to say this too about that point.
You don't do your job, you get fired.
Great schools attract businesses. So not only are we going to strengthen our relationship and cooperation among our parents, but we're also going to improve our school district so that businesses will want to come here.
That's right.
It works all together.
Let's get the next question.
Yes, Mr. Bouie.
Yes.
Can you give us an honest assessment of what can go wrong or what can go bad if we, one, don't have quality teachers in our schools? Two, not being able to have that parent-teacher relationship. And three, how can we go about enforcing discipline and respect among our students? And if we don't do that, what could be the outcome 10 years down the line?
Well, I can tell you what the outcome is going to be today. You read the newspaper a few days ago saying that our school district ranks below the average school district in this state. We're already there. We've got work to do. We've got to make sure our teachers are supported, that interaction between teachers and students. We've got to front load our budget to show that we care about that process. The learning process is what it's all about. So we're already there. So there's only one way for us to go right now, and I see that as this up. Because we're not where we need to be, and I think to a large part we failed our students. And it's not the teacher's fault. It's not the school-based administrator's fault. We've got to do some of the things that we know work for the learning process. And that's at the school board level.
Another question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But will this lead to some of the problems that we have in our community with violence?
Exactly. You're right on target, sir. You're right on target. If the students aren't learning and they're not feeling like they're able to compete, if they're not feeling like they're really able to get into the world of work, if they do not feel good about themselves, I mean, there's another dimension to education. Feeling good about yourself. Feeling your self-worth. Well, where's it going to go? If they can't go up, they're going to see an easier way going down. That's when, there's a potential for a crime to increase, and you know what we're living through right now. So schools have to work for that very reason. Part of that reason, schools have to work so we can make sure that we're supporting and serving our kids.
Just want to remind everybody, the questionnaires are on our website, and if you would like to reach out or ask them any questions, they're obviously willing to answer them, and they are here. So this is pretty still a packed race. We are still in school board District 1, and it's hard to tell right now.
Quick question. Hope it's not a plan.
My name is Ginny-Beth Joiner. I'm also running for district board. A little bit of my background, I did work as a middle school teacher here in the district. My background though is in higher education. Okay, so you can hear me, I'm guessing, because I can hear myself. Awesome. Okay, backing up. So my background is in education on the whole. I did serve 2 years as a middle school teacher at Heritage in Deltona. And before that, I worked at the college level, and after that, I worked at the college level. Currently, I own a business here on Woodland, and have recently come back to the community here. So, the reason that I'm running for school board is because I think a lot of people will say that COVID has taken a lot out of our schools and our communities, and I agree with that. But when it comes to the school system, I would say that Volusia County schools have been kind of going down since before COVID. So I don't think COVID helped, but I also don't think COVID is the 100% reason why our students are struggling and our educators are struggling. So the things that I am really passionate about and would bring to the school board are around holistic learning for students. So student engagement, student achievement are all huge things in the learning process. So if students aren't engaged in the classroom, we see a lot of those things with acting out, with behaviors that are disrupting. So being able to engage students in learning is a huge valuable piece of their education. Teachers need to be able to educate and engage their students. And our teachers are having morale problems right now. And I think some of that is COVID, I think some of it is not. A lot of it has to do with, yes, their compensation, but also the respect that teachers get. So that's another piece that I would really want to work on. I also would love to see our students be ready to leave high school, being ready to either join the workforce, have either a trade ready to go, or enter trade school, or go into higher education. One way or the other, they need to leave our schools with a toolkit that's going to make them a beneficial member of society. I think one of the things that we, as a community, miss out on when we don't have students that are ready to enter the greater community is that our community as a whole suffers when students aren't educated. So those are kind of the background reasons and what I would bring. You heard some of the previous questions. Okay, yes. Okay, so there was the Don't Say Gay bill passing. How do you protect students' privacy? Was among one of the questions.
So that one's really interesting because I have read the bill when it was a bill and now a law, and I mean it deals mainly a lot of it with curriculum. So teachers not being able to add things into the curriculum or things not being in the curriculum, which is set by Tallahassee. But it doesn't disregard the relationships that teachers have or our guidance counselors have with students, and being able to listen to them, talk to them, give them resources outside of that curriculum. So just because it is coming from someone who works for
the school or the school board doesn't necessarily mean that they can't give good feedback to those students and validate their experiences and their concerns. So I think we a lot of times get really frustrated when we see big things coming from Tallahassee or from Washington, and it impacts us, and it does, and I think some of it can be a scare tactic, where if you read it, it's not as scary, but it's meant to kind of get us looking away while something else is happening. And it doesn't allow us to get to what we really need to do, which is educating and having a safe environment for our students. So I think what I would do is try to find programs where students have an opportunity to be themselves and ask questions that's outside of the curriculum.
Any questions from the audience? I have a question. What inspired you to run?
So in 2014, I helped out with a campaign and saw kind of what it took to do that. And I think I've since then kind of had it on my radar that I would like to run. My passion is education, my background is education. I grew up in a family of educators, District 1 educators. I went to District 1 schools from kindergarten through graduation. And so whether or not I have a child in the school or am a career teacher in the school, I'm a product of District 1 schools, and when I see District 1 schools not being as successful as they can be, I want to be able to help in any way that I can. So I want to be able to use my background as an educator and as a business owner to listen to the constituents, try to find good creative problem solving to work on some of these things so that we can get back to where we are, where we have been, and even further.
If there are no audience questions or last minute online ones that people put in at www.delandpride.org. Okay, thank you very much. We have one candidate from the U.S. House of Representatives, whose last name I will not try to pronounce. Hannoush? Hannoush?
Yeah.
Joe Hannoush.
Sounds like a sneeze. So whenever you sneeze, you think of me. Thank you for laughing, because I'm really not very funny. All right, so my name is Joe Hannoush. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives, District 6, which includes DeLand. It's outside of DeLand also. It's Daytona Beach and northward and westward, frankly. If you're from Deltona or Port Orange, whatever, that's outside the district. That's District 7. So I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives. This will be federal level office. I would love to talk about school issues. This kind of energized me a little bit there. But we're at it's a Volusia Pride event here. I'm running as a libertarian. This is a partisan race, so I'm allowed to say what political party I'm from. The first question I get asked normally is, are you a Republican or Democrat? Our response is no, I'm not. I have been in both those two parties, and I left them both, frankly, because they're hypocrites. And the Libertarian Party, since its inception, 1971, believed in all LGBT, sexual and gender minority rights. We believed in same-sex marriage since 1971. Our first presidential candidate in 1972 was a gay man. Our vice president was a woman, by the way. And our former chair is also former chair was elected in 2020 was a gay man also. So we're a party, and myself included, that believes in every individual having equal rights, equal treatment under law. And it was just about 10 years ago where same-sex couple can't get married. And frankly, as far as the federal level is concerned, that created a tax burden on people that were, a couple that was same-sex, not getting the same tax relief as a opposite-sex marriage or marriage altogether. Because the tax rates are different. So what I would like to do is make laws as equal, treat everyone as equal as possible. The smallest minority is the individual. So that's where I'd like to go there. And as far as pride issues there, I think that's pretty much all of them. I believe in equal opportunity for everyone. So, thank you all for having this on. And sorry I was late. I was actually in Ormond Beach, which is my home city. I was in a budget advisory board meeting, so I was trying to advise send a message to the city commission about what, from the citizens, about how they could, treat the tax dollars a little bit better and protect our environment, city taxpayer dollars, all that stuff. So I'm involved very much in my own city, in the county as well. This is actually my third time running for office. I ran for state representative before. I would not have voted for not that this impacts my current race, but I would not have voted for the Don't Say Gay bill, because frankly it was very vague. I read the bill, it's very vague, and it could be interpreted as just someone, saying something, like a student asking a question, and if you say anything back, that you could be thrown out or whatever. But I'm not sure how I'm doing on time, but I'll take any questions.
Yeah. Do we have any audience questions?
Yes, sir. As a libertarian, you are pretty much a social conservative party. Would you look for maybe balanced budget amendments to the Constitution, limited government?
That's the opposite, actually. As a libertarian, we're socially liberal. We're fiscally conservative.
Fiscal conservative.
Yeah. So yeah, balancing the budget is important. Because as you know, for the last 40 years, we were under $1 trillion in our debt, and now we're over $30 trillion.
Right.
And that's a tax on you and me and everyone else in this room, every taxpayer, because their dollar doesn't go as far anymore. So your tax rate may have not gone up, by the way, it has, but your dollar, the value of the dollar has gone down, so you can't purchase as much.
But as a fiscal conservative,
Fiscal libertarian.
When you go to Congress, if you went to go to Congress, those issues will come up where you have to cut social programs to balance the budget. Would you be open to doing that?
What I would cut is the wasteful spending. There's a senator right now, Rand Paul. He's from Kentucky. Every year he puts out his airing of grievances, which is basically just a bunch of waste that the government has at the federal level. It's like spending money on lizards, on cocaine. Like that's literally what it is. Like these just crazy bills that your tax dollars are going to fund. I would not fund those things. And when you passed the bill, not we, they in D.C. passed the bill last year, the omnibus bill. It was like 2,700 pages, and the representatives, 435 representatives, had like 23 hours to read it or something like that. So if you do the math on that, it's over 100 words, or 100 pages, I should say, per hour. It's not including sleep. That's if you read right through it. No one read that bill, and they passed it. So these things, I would want to have bills that people actually read, so you see all this waste in there, and so you vote no. So we're sending money to foreign governments right now. I think we spent more money to Ukrainian government than Russia's total annual budget for defense spending. If that kind of puts things in perspective there. We send money. We are the military of the world. We have over 800 bases across the world. How we would reduce that? We sunset some of our agreements there. Not breaking the agreements with any foreign governments. We just sunset them. We say, we're going to give you 10 years, 15 years. We're going to train your military so you can defend yourselves, and we're going to come back home. We're going to bring our troops back home. Well, we're not taking care of our troops. When they come home, we have a VA system that doesn't work for them. I've talked to a lot of voters, and that's what they tell me. The VA's not work. Some of them do. Some of them like it. But most people that use the VA are not pleased about that. So I want less patients to go see the VA. I want to have less wars that cost us blood and money. I don't want to send young Americans to go to foreign countries and lose limbs, come back with PTSD for the rest of their lives, break up families also. Another thing is the war on drugs that we have going on. That costs taxpayer dollars too. People go to jail. These are victimless crimes. Like let's say you have cannabis on you. You go to jail, you have a criminal record now, and it costs money for investigations, for courts, for enforcement, and for incarceration. All those different levels of cost there. When we come back out, you have a record. You can't get a good job somewhere. So what do? You end up right back in jail. That's why our recidivism rate is so high. And it costs the tax dollars money. So I would repeal some of those victimless laws. Laws without victims. And you can do whatever you want as long as you don't harm any other people. If you want to, we have alcohol that's legalized right now. You can drink alcohol as long as you're not driving. That's illegal, crash or whatever. But if you're at home enjoying a beer, backyard, we just had 4th of July. If you want to enjoy your beer, that's fine with me. And in my opinion, some uses of alcohol is more mind-altering than any cannabis would be. So I think we should decriminalize cannabis. Immigration, I think, is a good thing. I think that adds revenue. They're actually a net positive for the economy and the cost to taxpayers and the government. So I would legalize immigration. I mean, we had Ellis Island work for over a century. Put Ellis Island on board. Let peaceful people come to this country and have the American dream. My parents came here from Iraq. That's a very hard government there. They don't have the freedoms they have here. My parents left there to come to the land of opportunity. And they're living an American dream. They're small business owners. They raised an awesome son. Thank you. That wasn't supposed to be funny, by the way. Yeah, so exactly. It's just like, I want government out of your bedroom and out of your wallet. You should be free to do what you want as long as you're not harming other people. And that costs less tax dollars. So that's how I balance the budget, give you back your freedoms.
I think this is a pretty good example of how even just in one small town, we're DeLand Pride. So we took the races that people in DeLand will be voting for. That includes U.S. House of Representatives, that includes your state representative, and it includes the mayor, which is next. So, who's up first? Chris Cloudman. For DeLand Mayor. And if you have any questions, you can send them to their website or say I'm here.
All right, hello. As Eli said, I'm Chris Cloudman, and I'm running for mayor of this great city of DeLand. I thought I'd start out a little different. We had some school board hopefuls here, and kind of going back to when I was in high school. And by the way, Bouie was my principal at Silver Sands Middle School. I was going to ask him a question of who was your favorite middle school student, but I was afraid he would say me. So going back to 9th grade English, just to kind of give you an insight to me. I had a teacher that gave us an assignment that was all semester long, that was a feelings journal. And for me, I'm not very public with my feelings, especially back then. And I willingly took a failing grade on that assignment. Now, I'm saying that just to prep this. I'm definitely going to make an exception to that tonight to give you a little bit of insight to my character, how I look at people, and how I treat people. So, fast forward 4 years from freshman year of high school to freshman year of college, and I arrived early to the campus because I was in the marching band, and so we had band camp, which led into fraternity rush time. So most of you know and understand fraternities and sororities are mostly social, therefore a good time. Well, the band had one that was an honorary service fraternity. So I decided to go ahead and pledge that fraternity. So what does that fraternity do? They do all the setting up of concerts. They line the field before practice. They haul the instruments to the games. They haul the water up into the stands for the band members. So service, giving back. Our pledge class was very close. In fact, we had a member go home over the weekend to give back to his own school who was preparing for a competition. He volunteered to go out and get drinks for everyone and was killed in a car accident. That brought our class that much closer. A few weeks later, one of the members of my pledge class, his name was Chad, he was a French horn player, I became very, very close with. And so we would go everywhere. In fact, there'd be times where he'd say, hey, why don't we ditch this class and go to Disney and get my paycheck, and we'd go. One of those times we came back and we were sitting in his truck, and he got very quiet. So you have to understand, Chad, we sometimes called him Eeyore because he'd just be, so he was quiet, And I said, Chad, what's up? And he looked at me and he said, so at that party last night, there were some people trying to get out of me who I was interested in. And they were guessing Amber, and they were guessing Susie, and they were guessing. And I looked at him and I said, they didn't guess Steve. He looked at me and he said, you knew? I said, I'm your best friend. Of course I knew. I was the first person he ever came out to. And the way I responded to him, the way I was accepting to him, because we had a good hug and cry, and over the next following weeks, he started telling everyone he could, and suddenly Eeyore became this energetic, amazing individual who was so confident in himself. And thank you. I mean, I'm telling you this story because not only did Chad get something out of that, but that day I learned, without a doubt, how you treat people matters. And treating people equal no matter what, and no matter whether they are exactly like you or not, matters. And so then we'll fast forward to my wife and I moving back to the area, moving here in DeLand. My 2 daughters and my wife are over there. Started working at Stetson, started getting involved. Was on the DeLand Planning Board, and the 2014 election happens. It was probably the only time I remember an ugly election cycle here in DeLand, meaning people attacking other candidates, people stopping at bus stops and yelling at candidates' children, people doing smear campaigns. And this was the town that my wife and I chose to live the rest of our lives in. This is the town that we chose to raise our children in. So when one of our city commissioners was moving out of town and there was a vacancy created that would be an appointment process, there was no doubt in my mind I needed to put my name in the hat, because I wanted the town that my daughters are growing up in to remain that town that attracted us to this area, that attracted many people to this area. And since then, we have been blessed to have a commission that can disagree, but at the end of the day, stay cordial. We're not in the news for yelling at each other and calling each other names. And that is the commission, that is the city I want to continue to serve, that I want to step up in a leadership position and lead us through the next decade, the next challenge that comes before us, the next step in the evolution of our great town.
I'm not sure why we've had this question multiple times, but you get to get it. Do you believe the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump?
You know, I have to have faith that other counties are as amazing as Volusia County. If you've ever had a presentation by Lisa Lewis and her staff, and just listen to the checks, the double checks, the triple checks, the fact that the results are entered into a computer that's not even hooked up to the internet, so there's no way for you to even hack in. It takes 2 people for entries, and I'm proud that in Volusia County there's no question. I think that stems across the state, and I would hope that the election integrity as a whole in the country is better than what some claim.
We actually got that submitted 3 times online. As someone who is disabled, the city infrastructure is often lacking. Say curb cuts, maintain sidewalks, access to parking. How would you address the accessibility needs of the city and its visitors?
So that's a great question. We've had a lot of great answers too. Just crosswalks or cuts. It's also accessibility for all. So we've had a big push at the city to put extra funding the last couple of years into sidewalk projects to reconnect some of the older infrastructure that does not have sidewalks. We've also partnered with the county to do the same. So roads throughout DeLand, there are state roads, the one right outside this door. So curb cuts and everything out here are DOT's responsibility. There are many county roads, and then there are city roads. And so it's a complicated web throughout the city. But as Ms. Girtman alluded to earlier, there's a lot of good collaboration, a lot of good effort to work together, especially with the county and the city, and with the DOT. And so there's also funding coming down from the federal government that comes through our local transportation board, which, as she said, she's now the chair of, and I'm now the first vice chair of.
All right, audience. Any audience questions? All right, yes?
It's too long. First, I want to say this is a very hard question, and you weren't prepped for it. So
Okay.
let's start with that. This is going to be for all candidates, so if you can repeat this to them, this would be very great. As a mayor, normally you get thrown things right in your lap, and you're not prepped for it. You don't get a chance for it. In August, there's going to be a law. The law has already been passed from the governor that you cannot have any kind of protest or anything in front of your home. Every Friday, we're all aware that we have protests that happens right downtown, but people live right in the center of town. How are you going to handle those protests? Because one phone call happens and those people are going to have to disperse, but how are you going to handle that? And then, of course, that'll be asked for all the candidates.
The question was, he said there is a law going into effect in August that changes the ability to have protests, and that they have to be dispersed immediately. I think it was said earlier about one-size-fits-all laws, and that is a unfortunate instance that is happening over and over again in Tallahassee right now. We talked about, we had the question of what will you do to defend that. For me personally, I've been awarded a Home Rule Hero Award twice now in the last couple of years for my efforts in going up to Tallahassee and to reaching out to our representatives to have those conversations, to have amendments to the bills, and sometimes the bills being taken off the table altogether. We hear about a lot of bad bills that make it through, but I'm on calls weekly during session on updates of bills that we are at the city level fretting about, and thankfully many of them get dropped in committee and never go to the floor. Going back to your question, DeLand, that's part of our personality, part of our uniqueness, is that we have church members, we have the happy atheists, we have people holding signs for elections, we have people who were expressing their frustration just a couple weeks ago with the overturn of Roe versus Wade on the street corner. And I don't see that as something that, if they are peaceful protests, peaceful gatherings like you're saying, our police are not going to go out and enforce something that doesn't make sense.
I have a question. You vacated your seat, right, to run? Well, yeah. What is the question is? What is the importance of running for mayor? What can you do as a mayor that you couldn't do as a commissioner?
Sure, it would have been much safer to just stay in my seat. My current seat is at the halfway point in a term, so I was reelected without opposition 2 years ago. State law requires that if you're going to run for another office, that you submit a letter of resignation before qualifying occurs. And then it has to be dated to go into effect the day either you would take your new office or someone would take your current seat. So I'm all in. I mean, at the end of this election, I'm either mayor or I'm off the commission and I'm searching for ways to give back to the community in other ways. So why would I risk it? Why would I do that? You know, we've had the same mayor for 21 years. And after 21 years of that consistency, of that constant face being out in the community, people recognizing him, of providing leadership at meetings, providing leadership to the next generation, I feel we're at a time, especially of this rapid growth we're going through, of changes we're experiencing, kind of stretch marks we're getting in the city. It is important for someone who has the knowledge, who has the connections to be able to pick up the phone and call someone at DOT that you have a personal relationship with, to pick up the phone and call members of the county council that you have a personal relationship with, to pick up and call someone at the state level that you have a personal relationship with. I have nothing bad to say about anyone else running. I'm just offering that I have the experience, I have the connections to be able to take office and start from day one with a very minimal learning curve.
Yeah, get out of here. Okay, next up, the land mayor, Buzz Nesbitt. It's 1Z, actually, you know. And if you have any questions...
It is 1Z. Thank you.
Thank you to DeLand Pride again for having this forum. It's nice to talk to educated voters, and it's when we have forums, it's nice to have people that understand the process, understand the issues. The mayor in DeLand, city government is the closest to the people, it's closest to the voter, and it's, in my opinion, the most important because you see the mayor, you see the commissioners, you have an opportunity to discuss what's going on in the community. I worked the census this year, and people asked me what I learned working the census. And one of the things I learned was when I talked to people, they said, you know, we're not heard. We're not heard in city government, and it was a surprise to me because, again, city government, municipal government is the closest to the voters. So I started looking to see why is that the case, and it boiled down to communication. I'm on the planning board. I can't tell you how many times I have heard from people comments that have said, we don't want to have a lot of folks come to a meeting because it may cause us to have a delay in passing a project or doing a project. And that to me was just the total difference of what municipal government should be. When I first got out of school, I went to work for the state of Tennessee, and I worked for a large municipal government. And I was taught immediately that you don't work for the government, you work for the people. You work for the voters, and they're the ones who tell you what they need, and you better be listening to them, and you better be communicating back to them. To tell you a little bit about me, after my government experience, I went to work in telecommunications and worked my way for 30 plus years, and I was sent to places that had problems. I was sent to places that had growth, and you found that if you didn't change, if you didn't have someone to give strategy and what needed to happen in growth, the wheels started shaking on the car, and you didn't have the things in place that needed to be there. And that's kind of where we are right now. We're having fast growth. We're going to continue to have growth. When people say we need to stop it, growth is much better than no growth. It's certainly you don't want to live in a city like Detroit where it died for a while, and so it's a good thing. But you need a strategy. You need a leader that says this is the direction we need to go in for our growth. This is what we need to tell the developers. We don't need them to come in and tell us what they're going to build and how they're going to build it. Instead, we need to tell them what they need to do in order to get there. So that has been my leadership style all along, is one, to communicate both up and down what we need to do, how do we get there, and so that it's clear to both the developers, the community, and the politicians. So that's pretty much sums up really what I think is extremely important. To the social aspects and some of the questions that have been asked tonight, I'm going to fight for your rights. I'm going to fight for the rights of all people. And, you know, as we get, we're in a country right now that has a big division between groups, and we need to have a plan in place that if we were to have, I've heard someone the other day tell me that they said if the Democrats win in this November, we're going to have people on the streets and guns and shooting people, and this is just not right. And that craziness of division between groups is just really ruining us all. And so, if I have anything to do about it, we're going to have, you know, your rights protected, everybody's rights protected, and when we have, God forbid, something like these parade shootings, you know, we need to have things in place to make sure that we're staying safe. And again, that's kind of my background is to. I sat there and drank so much water, now my mouth is dry. But we have so many issues right now in the city that needs attention and direction and leadership. We talked about the homeless situation, and I will tell you, go to electbuzz.com because it's easier than me trying to give you a 30-second answer on how I want to handle it. I just wanted to kind of wrap up and say that communication, again, is so important, and understanding what people are saying, and we have to go out and ask people to participate. We don't just say, if you want to serve, call us, we'll find you a place. Instead, we need to do an inventory of what we have in terms of human assets and make sure that we're tapping those assets to give us what the community is looking for, not what the politicians think the community wants.
That's a pretty good segue into our question that we received online. There's an increasing divisiveness and threats of violence across the nation. When all hell breaks loose in other places, how will you help keep the city cohesive and peaceful?
Excellent question. And my background, again, is one in which I have brought people to the table in negotiations and have worked very complex negotiations, and I have a mediation certificate, and family law, by the way, which is the hardest mediation, I think, of all. But that's where we have to bring people